Good one, too. Good morning. How are you all this morning? It's so great to see you here. Thank you for coming out. I'm Doc, if you don't know me, from 102.5 The Vine and with OpenCalBizNow.com. And I so appreciate you all being here for what we're calling Take Back Your Business today. And we're also streaming online, and we have Town Hall Central with Don here today. Before we get started, we just had such a great time up in Sacramento. I'm losing track of time now, but it seems like it was just yesterday, but it was kind of yesterday, wasn't it? And we were up there for Illuminate the Capitol, and it was just an amazing event and wonderful. And I wanted to bring up Tim Thompson, who, of course, you all know is the pastor here, and also our watch with Tim Thompson to open us up in prayer.
Well, thank you, everybody, for being here today, and thank you to everybody that's tuned in online. Glad you are here with us. So we're going to open up in prayer, and just want to let you all know there is coffee available over here for those of you that are here live. Feel free to bring it in, but happy to have everyone here today. Let's go ahead and bow our heads and go before the Lord. Father, just want to pray right now in your Son's name, blessings upon the businesses here in California, people who want to work, they want to open their businesses. Father, you've created us to work hard and to not be lazy, and yet we have a government that's telling us to just sit down and do nothing. And somehow they're going to be our Savior, they're going to take care of us. Lord, we know biblically that that's not the case. We know that you want us to work. So as we have that drive, I pray for the small businesses, Lord, knowing that they are the ones that are under attack along with the church here. I pray that they would have boldness to open, Father. I pray that they would stand firm against this tyranny that's taking place in our state. Lord, I pray for pastors across this state and across our nation that they would open the doors of the church buildings, Father, that they would honor you above men. Lord, that they would allow you to have your way and that you would be placed in your righteous position in their hearts. So bless this day, Lord. Bless Town Hall Central. Bless Open Cal Business Now, Father. Would it be used for your glory? And we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.
Open Cal Biz Now, all about getting our businesses open, and it requires action. It requires that you do something. And so if you're here today or watching online, thank you for coming. Today we have a whole menu of information for you, including how to get involved in your elections, what to do, how to become a neighborhood influencer, how to harvest ballots. It's all coming up. And with that, I want to introduce the do you call yourself the co-host? Co-host of Don and Jen and Don show on AM 590 The Answer, and also host of Town Hall Central. It's Don Dix. Thank you.
Great.
And live. What a great blessing it is to have that resource. So I'm going to mention a few things that are germane to what's going on in the Zoom room, because of course we have folks that are joining us from all over the Inland Empire this morning for what we call an orientation. I'll explain a little bit more about that in a moment, but the first thing that I wanted to let everybody know is that as far as the room is concerned, the Zoom room, we try to screen people that are going through our orientation, but it's always important that we let folks know, and also folks that are here. It looks like everybody's a familiar face to us, but we're keeping everybody in the room muted so that we can eliminate background noise. There is a chat room in the Zoom room, so if you happen to be logged on from your device and you want to engage in chat, please feel free to do so. Keep the conversation civil, and just know that we reserve the right to remove anybody from that environment that becomes disruptive. Unfortunately, that happens occasionally. We do our best to screen people into the orientation for a variety of different reasons. Normally, we would have a discussion period and a Q&A immediately following this. We won't be doing that because, as Doc said, this presentation is part of a larger live event at 412 Murrieta, which we're going to be talking to business owners, hearing from business owners about what they're dealing with right now during this shutdown period, and possibly what we can be doing to help business owners make some changes. I don't know if you all familiar, and I just want to stay on that point very quickly, with some of the letters that have been sent out to business owners around Riverside County from someone who is called the county attorney. Now, we're all familiar with what a district attorney is, okay? A district attorney is the person, happens to be Mike Hestron in Riverside County. Every county elects a district attorney, and they're responsible for prosecuting criminal indictments and behavior. On the other hand, the county attorney serves a couple of different purposes, but as it relates to our conversation today, that county attorney also has the power to enforce civil code. Now, right now, because of this pandemic, our Governor Newsom has issued an order that many people feel is law, and it's being enforced as law, and this attorney here in Riverside County is enforcing it as law with some businesses that have remained open that are considered to be non-essential and covered under the governor's order to stay shut down. That letter that's been sent to them stipulates the potential for criminal indictments, criminal prosecution for violating the governor's order, and a $1,000 a day fine, and the possibility that they would lose whatever licenses that they may have, whether it's a food and beverage license or a license to operate a salon. So this particular attorney, we've learned some interesting things about this attorney. This attorney is an ideologue, a far-left ideologue. Doesn't have many friends within the county, and is someone that you may be hearing more about in the coming week as we make plans for how we're going to deal with this particular individual. And that's really one of the purposes of Town Hall Central. So let's go into our agenda for this morning as far as this portion of our meeting. First, we're going to talk a little bit about what Town Hall Central is and why it exists. We're going to do an overview of our training program, which entails a fundamental understanding of processes like voter registration, ballot harvesting, some basics in social media and how to use social media, in getting the word out about something as simple as this. Pick your path, because when we say neighborhood influencer, we're not necessarily talking about someone that's going to go knocking on their neighbor's doors, although that is one option. There are many different pathways to be a neighborhood influencer, many different ways to impact your neighborhood, and we're going to talk about what some of those are. And then we're going to have a presentation by Gina Gleason. Gina Gleason is the Government Affairs Director at Calvary Chapel, Chino Hills. If there's anything to do with politics, it passes through her hands at Calvary Chapel, Chino Hills, and she has really guided that organization for the last 10 years to be a very effective player in the public square, bringing Christian values into the public square, which is a civic area. And then it says your questions and thoughts, but we're going to actually skip that because there will be a formal Q&A at the end as Doc comes back up when we're wrapped up to introduce our next speakers and the next portion of the meeting. All right, so what is Town Hall? Many of you have gotten an introduction to Town Hall Central through what we call Zoom halls. That's our own word. We've combined Zoom, the environment and the digital environment that we're broadcasting from, with Town Hall, which pre-March 19th, which is kind of ground zero for when this state was shut down, anytime we wanted to get together to discuss politics, we always thought in terms of live events. We needed a facility to do those live events. Well, guess what? Now we've discovered this little animal called Zoom. So we do a lot more digitally. It's free, which is always good. It enables people from a larger geographic area to come into an environment to hear a message, which is great. No travel. And you can do it from the comfort of your own home with your preferred beverage. Mine this morning is coffee. I hope everybody at home's got their coffee in hand, and see some of the people here have. So we started off this last December 6th with an idea. And the idea was, if you take folks that feel like us, that have our worldview, put us into a festive environment, which, by the way, you guys don't look very festive this morning. We need to up our game in this room a little bit, okay? But you put everybody into a festive environment where they're having fun, kind of a party, and then you position people that are going to talk about what we refer to as red meat political issues. These are lightning rod issues, which at the time was the sexual education agenda in our schools. It also included Second Amendment issues where we were being our Second Amendment was being encroached on. Free speech issues. How about, the sanctity of life in the womb? That's a big one that's been going on for a long time. So you put these red meat issues throughout that room. Good morning, Kevin. And you give them people the ability to interact with those folks in that festive environment. And my belief was, in the right environment, those folks would have a paradigm shift and go, you know what? It's time to stop being silent. It's time to get engaged. What do I need to do? And that's where the big disconnect exists, because most of us don't understand the basics of how we actually wield our political power. What is political power? So Judge Brandeis put it best. He was a very instrumental Supreme Court justice in the early 1900s. He said the most important political office in the entire country is what? Yes, private citizen. That's a very accurate statement, because in the millennials of governments, our government was one of the first that turned the pyramid upside down on power. It used to be that there was a monarch or a ruler of some sort that was at the top of the pyramid of government, and they dictated, literally dictator, what was to happen in their realm, if you will, whether it's a kingdom or, as Rome was, an empire. Here in America, the founders, who were historians in their own right and had understood what it was that tamped down liberty and freedom over the millennia, they turned the whole political pyramid upside down. And they said that the sovereign is the citizen, not the monarch. And so we are the ones with the political power, and we elect people to essentially rent our political power and advocate on our behalf. Somewhere along the line, that's all gotten lost. And I think where it started was when civics was removed from education. Because now, instead of in second, third, and fourth grade learning about the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, having to memorize the preamble to the Constitution, as I had to do growing up in Baltimore, we now teach kids to question their own gender in second grade. Okay? That creates a tremendous amount of confusion among kids. If you can imagine, I didn't even understand what gender was when I was in second grade, much less be in a position to question my own. I knew that boys and girls were different. I knew that girls had cooties. I knew that for sure, right? It's still true. But beyond that, I didn't know much, right? Well, now, and I remember in my elementary school, we were the first class to get sex education. And in the sixth grade, I remember sitting in an auditorium, a little like this, with my parents in the back of the auditorium, and as many parents were at the time, so they could monitor what was being taught. And in the front of the room, we were taught what the bees and the birds were, a very sort of biological presentation that at the time was embarrassing enough as it was, let alone all the other garbage we're putting out. My point is, without teaching what civics is, I have a very powerful connection in my brain. It's wired to be a patriot because of that. It's wired to understand that we are the ones that should be standing up. And when government does things that are not according to the Constitution, we're the ones that are supposed to stand up and hold them accountable. So what happened to the right side of the political spectrum along the way? We're the ones that are like, oh, protest? Nah, not so much. I'm not really down with that standing on street corner stuff, which is fine as long as you're doing what you need to do in order to preserve the republic. What we have lost touch with is what the proper care and feeding of a constitutional republic is. And that's the purpose of Town Hall Central, to put us back in touch with our political power and the steps that we need to implement daily and weekly to preserve the republic, because preserving the republic is not showing up every 2 years to vote. Preserving the republic is a full-time job. It's holding city councils, school boards, dog catchers, police, sheriff's department, county board of supervisors, Sacramento and DC accountable for what they're doing so that they don't violate our constitutional rights, which, by the way, since March 19th have gotten absolutely shredded. Okay? The idea that we're required to wear masks, that we're required to stay at home, that we're required to shut down businesses is absolutely anti-constitutional. You folks at home can clap along with the folks here. Yeah, rarely do I get that fired up that I inspire applause, but that's nice that it happened this morning. So what we do every Thursday night essentially is we do what we were doing at those initial events around the campfire, if you will, at someone's home, serving up food and their favorite beverage, and then inserting red meat issues. So the red meat issues we're doing every Thursday night on Town Hall, on Zoom. Now, those folks who are here through the orientation and at home in the orientation, I'm going to assume that everybody's been to at least one of these online presentations, because that's how you found out about the orientation. We don't publicize this except for during those presentations. So if you found your way into this room or you found your way onto this call, this orientation online, it's because you went to one of these events. So that's the red meat that we put out there to draw you into a conversation about something that's going to be on the ballot. In this case, it was Proposition 13 is being assaulted through something called split roll. Proposition 15 that's on the ballot. We talked about that this past Thursday night. But we talk about all the propositions, all the issues, and we'll begin to talk about the candidates in different geographic political subdivisions throughout Riverside County, starting at the beginning of September. Now, what you do from there in those red meat, when we're discussing these red meat issues, is we present to you that it's time to stop being silent and time to engage and learn how to reclaim your political power. And that's what we're beginning to introduce during these orientations, is how to do that. Now, we're starting off at sort of that kindergarten level, if you will, only because we, as a body politic, are like the coma patient that's been lying in bed for 10 years, atrophied, not knowing that we're in a coma, not knowing that our body's atrophied, and someone wakes us up and we try to jump out of bed and we can't because our muscles have disappeared. Our political muscle, our understanding of what it takes to actually be effective politically has gotten decimated over the years. I would submit to you that's on purpose, but nonetheless, that's where we're at, and we have to correct course. We have to reverse the process that has gotten us here. So all the topics that we talk about during these town hall meetings are designed to attract people, to be magnets, if you will, like that little. How many of you have one of those little things that lights up at night that the bugs get near and they get zapped? This is our political bug zapper. We invite you in, you get zapped, you're stuck inside this cage. We talk about these issues. These are some of the other issues that we're going to be talking about, and invite you in to learn how it was that we got here. The first thing is we have no formal ongoing program to register Republicans in most of the political subdivisions throughout California. We just don't focus on registering Republicans. We have no formal ongoing program to build a bench. And what I mean by that is, if you're inspired to run for office, that's awesome. Do you know what it takes to run for office? Do you understand the commitment that it takes? Do you understand the gathering of volunteers, the gathering of a finance committee, the gathering of all the different elements, hiring a campaign consultant, hiring a campaign manager. Most people have no idea the arena that they're getting ready to step into because they're part of that atrophied patient syndrome. So building a bench means getting people in touch also with what it takes to run for political office. We have no formal ongoing effort to increase voter turnout. We're going to be talking about that both in terms of what's been happening in Riverside County, and I would submit to you probably is the same thing happening in every county around this state, as well as responding to what the Democrats are doing, which is ballot harvesting. And we're going to talk a little bit about that with Gina Gleason, who has a program both for individuals and churches to get involved in that. No formal ongoing effort to cultivate financial support. Even a grassroots effort like this requires money. I mean, we're up to about $300 a month in terms of paying for a Zoom room, MailChimp, some of the other technologies that we need in order to just make this screen work. So it takes money. And then finally, no formal and ongoing program to recruit and train volunteers, or what we're calling now neighborhood influencers. So that's what this is a part of. Okay. Advance the slide. All right. We're going to actually pull down our first poll of the day. Now, if you're following along online here in the room, I invite you to join this poll. The first question that we have is, what best describes your political involvement in the past? All right. So I'm going to launch this poll, and I invite the folks at home to participate. You can now see this on the screen here if you're here, and if you're playing along with the online Zoom game on your device, you can participate in this poll as well. But what we're asking you is your past political experience non-existent, but I'm ready to get engaged. I've helped campaigns by making phone calls. I'm a social media keyboard warrior, yay for us. I have written and called elected officials or other. So if you would take a moment to enter that poll while I begin to describe to you what the political infrastructure actually looks like across the country. Of course, it starts at the national level with what we refer to as the National Republican Party. Sorry, that's covered up a bit. Let me see if I can. There we go. Oops. Behave. No, not like that. So right now, what we have in this country is, and I'm speaking about all of this from the right side of the aisle, because I'm a Republican, I'm a conservative. I don't agree with everything that the Republican Party has done. I certainly don't agree with the way that they've managed the affairs in this state, because they're basically non-existent. But we have a national Republican Party. We have a state GOP operation, which is really responsible for huge donation gathering, for helping targeted areas where we have a shot at electing a congressman, a state senator, or a state assembly person. And then other types of things like conventions and messaging to us. And, you know, they send out some pretty good emails. So I would encourage you to get on the state GOP email list. Then there's something that virtually is the best kept secret in California, politically. How many of you have ever heard of something called a county central committee? Sounds pretty Soviet, sounds communist, but it's not. A couple of hands went up. So a county central committee is basically part of the building block of the state party, and the county party is responsible for getting out the vote, registering Republicans, and raising money to do those first two things. So we got a marketing problem, basically, because you've never heard of the county party. That should be something that every registered Republican in the county knows about, so that they know what to do and how to help and volunteer. But yet, the county party is typically used as a stepping stone for people to advance their political careers. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. Oops, I didn't want to go forward yet. Oh, I went pretty far forward. Oops. All right. Then we have an alphabet soup of grassroots organizations. You guys have probably heard about the Tea Party. You've probably heard about Republican Women's Federated. Have you heard about the California Republican Assembly? That's a group within the Republican Party that has neighborhood groups. There's one right here in Temecula called the Murrieta-Temecula Republican Assembly. They're a part of this, one of these alphabet alphabet soup of grassroots organizations, largely not working together or organizing in cooperation with each other, and that's a problem. When I first got into politics, my gateway drug was through a national security issue, and I was out trying to inform people about the threats that our communities faced regarding that national security threat. And what I found was 30 different organizations throughout Riverside County that didn't even know barely that each other existed, and they were operating like their own independent silos of resistance. So I put down here, sometimes we are our own worst enemies, and that's unfortunately true. So what I'd like to know now, okay, thank you for participating in that poll so we can see that a lot of people have written. They're elected officials. Some people are the social media warriors, helped campaigns by making phone calls. A couple of people out there that are ready to get engaged and haven't done much. I'm going to end this poll, and there are the results that everybody can see. And I'm going to bring up our next poll. And this really helps me to understand who the people are and their backgrounds that are coming into our sort of circle of friendship. And what we're going to do now is we're going to go to a second poll, and I'm going to ask folks what organizations you've heard of in the past. So I've named a bunch of them, but what I'd like you to do now on this poll is just name those organizations that you knew of prior to my just running through all of those things. So now, if you'd fill out that poll as I move on to a very important question, and by a show of hands in this room, I'd like to know, how many of you know who in your city your elected city council people are? Raise them high. Okay, so about half the room. Now, let me ask you this question. Do you know what party they're registered to? Do you know what their ideological worldview is? A lot of them are. Yeah. What was your name? I'm sorry? Warren? Warren just said, yeah, they're all liberals. Well, that's true. In many cases, because we don't know who we're voting on. But I would submit to you that even though we're told, oh, city councils and school boards, those are nonpartisan offices. Don't pay any attention to party. Don't pay any attention to their ideological perspective on life. That's a huge mistake, because as a result, we're not really figuring out what their political orientation is and what their worldview is. So we end up letting in far left progressives that are inflicting cultural Marxism in our communities. So the government runs school boards. How many of you know what the school district is in your community and who the people are that are on that school board? By a show of hands. See, that's another muscle that's kind of atrophied. How about water? Let me ask you this, the old saying, whiskey's for drinking, water's for fighting. How many of you know who your water board is and what water district you're in? That's really important. Water, as we say in Baltimore, water is really important when you live in a desert, right? So how do you know when the water board is getting ready to vote on a rate increase, whether that's justified or not? California Assembly District and Representative, California State. Now, these are partisan offices. Typically, you would know that. So what I'm going to do, thank you very much. We see a lot of people know who the Tea Party is. Not a lot of people know about the fact that there's a state party. Not a lot of people know about the fact that there is a central committee. Here's the results of that poll so everybody can see it. Now, I forgot to update this, but I did the other night during our town hall when I asked people what they were familiar with, and I added Black Lives Matter to the list. Do you know that everybody in the room knew who Black Lives Matter was, but nobody knew about these other important organizations that actually are the levers that they can use to wield their political power? That's the media. That's where we're at right now. So I'm going to launch another poll as we continue. Hang on one quick second as I figure out how to do this. Oops, I didn't want to relaunch that one. I'm going to end polling. Still figuring out how this polling stuff works. So this one is, can you name your elected? So I'm going to launch that poll, and while I continue, I'd like to hear from everybody about whether you can name all of the elected people in your city council, school district, water district, and so on. Be interesting to see the results of that. All right, as we continue here, now how do we get out of this mess? This is kind of interesting because more than at any other time, I don't know why that's popped up in the middle. I've tried to move it off to the side, but such as it is. If you, Carol, could slide the poll on the computer off to the side, because that's the computer we're drawing the conversation, the visuals from. More than any other time, people want to do something, but they don't know what to do. I run into people all the time, and I would encourage you to do something of an informal survey. You're in a grocery store, you're in the checkout line. It's a little more difficult to do now because we're doing this social distancing. But if you find yourself in a place, learn how to take the conversation political. I can take any conversation about anything and turn it political in 30 seconds. And I do. Because I want to know what people are thinking and how they feel. Ask them, I just, heard this or that on the radio or TV. What do you think about that? Get to know, because here's something that happens. When we gather together in unfamiliar gatherings that might be of a political nature, many people are astonished how many people in their community there are that feel like them and think like they do. We just are marginalized by the fact that the media is telling us that we don't exist anymore and that we don't have any input into what's going on in the government. So do a little survey sometime, ask people, and I'm going to give you a communication tip right now that's really, really important. So one of the things that we teach neighborhood influencers, because a lot of people aren't necessarily comfortable with knocking on somebody's door. I get it. It is, I'm pretty much toast. I'll tell you what, take a couple years of Toastmasters. That'll get you over your fear of anything. Number one fear is public speaking. My fear is not public speaking. I wake up and go, where am I speaking today? I need that outlet. But here's a couple of communication tips that I learned from my background in sales over 25 years in the financial services industry. The person who is in control of a conversation, write this down, is the person who's asking the questions. If you find yourself in possession with some brand new exciting information and you have the urge to do a data dump into somebody else's brain, don't do it. Because people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So asking questions, the person who's asking questions is always in control. And then there's these things called open-ended questions or closed-ended questions. Closed-ended questions are yes or no answers. Open-ended questions are asking somebody for a response. So do not ever start doing a data dump until you know how somebody feels about a particular topic. Ask them, how do you feel about the mask you're wearing? Before you start railing about how these masks are satanic and, unconstitutional, ask them, how do you feel about wearing your mask? And they might say, I love it because I'm having this crazy dental work done. And now all of a sudden you found out why they're wearing a mask. It's not because they have to, it's because they're actually glad they have to. But that's just a small example. So learn how to ask questions, okay? That's really, really important because you control the conversation when you're asking questions. Okay. So just in wrapping up this portion of our conversation, what is Town Hall Central? It's to provide the critical information for the upcoming election that people need to know in order to vote correctly. So we're covering the propositions, we're covering the issues, and we will begin to cover the candidates that are running throughout Riverside County and beyond, depending upon whether there are folks that are wanting to know about that in other geographic subdivisions like Orange County or San Diego County. The other purpose is to mobilize a grassroots effort to take political control of our neighborhoods by building a permanent political infrastructure. That's the goal. A permanent political infrastructure. What is that? You may be familiar with what's going on in Chicago right now. Chicago is a city that is under siege right now from all these protests. And if you watch the news on Monday morning, you see that anywhere between 50 to 75 people have been shot, some of them killed. It's a disaster. But Chicago has some very important lessons for us because they have been using something for 5 decades called a precinct operation. That precinct operation involves an individual who has a specific geographic area that they're responsible for organizing politically. Most of these people, if not all, are Democrats, many of them far left Democrats, and it is their responsibility to make sure that everybody in that precinct votes and votes Democrat. That's how they have controlled the politics in Chicago for 5 decades. But it's another one of those best kept secrets. All right, so that's our goal, is to build a political infrastructure that is permanent, because what happens typically is we have these things called campaigns that come and go every election cycle. You recruit volunteers, they go out and door knock, and at the end, win, lose, or draw, that campaign infrastructure melts away into the woodwork, never to be seen again. The same thing for things like recalling the governor. Right now, we're gathering signatures for recalling the governor. It breaks my heart every time I see a booth gathering signatures for the recall, and they're not gathering names to volunteer for other stuff. Every person that walks up to a booth that signs that recall notice is a potential volunteer. So what you need to have, is some way to be able to get people to sign up into your neighborhood volunteer organization. I use what I call blue cards. So this is something that people can fill out, their name, email, organization, their address, and then they check what they want to do. They want to be added to the email list. They want to know about future meetings. They'd like to help out or give money. This is gold. So if you're involved in gathering signatures for the recall and you're not gathering names for people to volunteer in your area, you're making a huge mistake. And it breaks my heart to see that, because guess what? Tom Steyer, the billionaire that ran for president on the Democrat ticket, he erected kiosks at Walmart parking lots that said, "Impeach Donald Trump." Now, if you're a Republican, are you going to walk up to that kiosk? Probably not. If you're a Democrat and you hate Donald Trump, you're going to walk up to that kiosk and you're going to sign whatever they got. And that's how Tom Steyer gathered every volunteer in California for his presidential bid. All right, so those are the results of that poll there. Everybody knows who their state Senate representative is. Probably down here, that's because it's Melissa Melendez. What a hero. All the way up to nobody knows their special districts like WRCOG, Sandbag, and Skag. I would submit to you that those are the most important organizations to know about, because they are controlling your environmental policy, your transportation development, whether or not you can build in a certain area or not. These are unelected bureaucrats, agencies that have power that they were not elected to have. They've appointed that power, and it's sad that we don't know more about them. All right, so now we're going to move on to a little bit about what's going on in Riverside County. Now, Riverside County people talk about the fact that they believe Riverside County is this haven of conservatism and republicanism. Riverside County, we're a conservative county. Well, look at the voting breakdown. 447,000 Democrats, 366,000 Republicans, and 240,000 no party preference. We're losing the game here, folks. We're losing the game. That should be a major wake-up call for people that aren't aware of that. Now, drilling down even deeper, what happened during the last election? What did we have in terms of voter turnout? we had 53 and 52% of the electorate turned out to vote during the primary. It'll be about 75% in the general election. What we're about is trying to find that 25% of registered voters that aren't voting, and churches should be about the business of finding Christians that aren't even registered, because they're everywhere. So that's what we find when we're out knocking on doors as neighborhood and getting to know our community. Now, drilling down even further as we get ready to draw Gina Gleason into our conversation today, is a specific election. Here's the voter turnout in the 60th Assembly District, where Sabrina Cervantes, who voted for the gas tax, so you can thank her for that, and Christopher Oaxaga in March the 3rd that was challenging her. The day after the election, he was ahead by 400 votes. And I remember calling Christopher going, "What the heck's going on? You're ahead, dude. That's awesome." He's like, "Yeah, I know, it's great." Fast forward 30 days later to when the vote was certified, he lost by 8,000 votes. That's due to ballot harvesting. Ballot harvesting is when the Democrats go out, knock on doors, say, "You got a ballot, I'll be happy to take it into the registrar of voters for you," and that's what we need to fix. So our training involves voter registration, introduction to social media if you're not already there, developing neighborhood teams, voter contact, neighborhood influencers, understanding how to use a technology platform to contact voters called Campaign Sidekick, and ballot harvesting. So now we're going to bring in Gina Gleason into the conversation. As I mentioned in the beginning, Gina is the Public Affairs Director for Calvary Chapel, Chino Hills. She has a ministry called Real Impact, and she has been teaching churches how to register voters, how to get them involved in the ballot harvesting process, how to influence their local city councils and school districts. And she's done an amazing job of shepherding that organization into a higher level of activism. So please welcome to our conversation, Gina Gleason. It's great to have you with us, Gina.
Can you hear me? Okay.
You want to speak to us so we know that you're there?
Can you hear me? I'm speaking. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. Okay, great. Thank you for the invitation, Don. Glad to be with you all. And to talk about this really important topic for this coming election. So first, I want to say that I'm here as a private citizen. I am not representing my church, Calvary Chapel, Chino Hills, or Pastor Jack Hibbs. I happen to be a activist outside of church, so I am here making my presentation. Are you guys there? Okay. Great. So what I've done at my church is created a handout that is all about ballot harvesting for this coming election and future elections. And I want to explain that handout to you, how you can use it. The target audience is the church, how the church can legally collect ballots, because it is legal. So as Don mentioned, I am the leader of Real Impact at Calvary Chapel, Chino Hills. Our website is realimpact.us, and that's where you can get a copy of this handout. It's a 21-page handout that goes through ballot harvesting at a church setting. Being on staff at a church, I know the ins and outs of a church office, what's required, and what people need to know about setting up and preparing for ballot collecting at church. We really don't like the name ballot harvesting. That's the common name that's used on social media, TVs, you name it. We call it ballot collecting. But this handout that I created is a dot to dot. And it's going to cover things like important election dates that you should know about. It's going to cover the law, and I'm going to talk more about that right now for you all. It's going to provide a sample letter that you can send to your church leadership, your pastor, asking your pastor to allow you to do ballot harvesting at church. It's going to give you the names and numbers and contact information and websites and everything for all of the 58 counties in California, including their business hours. So it's pretty comprehensive. I have run it through an elections attorney, and it's been approved. I just wanted to make sure that I was within the law, describing the law correctly to the churches, wanting to protect the churches and wanting to protect you all that are going to be out collecting these ballots. So take a look at that resource. You can download it and use it to your benefit. But what I'm here for today is to talk mostly about how you, as an individual, can get involved in ballot harvesting. We all know that the election is Tuesday, November the 3rd. So approximately 30 days before the election, ballots are going to be put in the mail. In California, every voter will be receiving a ballot, whether or not you requested it, whether or not you even want it. And that's the work of Gavin Newsom. So look for those ballots that first week. And so when we think about ballot harvesting, which is new to all of us, let's talk a little bit about why we even have it in the first place. It was a law that was passed in 2016, mostly by the Democrats, and signed into law, AB 1921. Prior to 1921, ballots were mailed to a person who requested the ballot, and that person, if they couldn't drop it in the mail or turn it into the polling location themselves, allowed someone from their own household to return that ballot, a spouse, a child, a relative, or someone living within that household. AB 1921 changed all of that. Now the law says that anyone can turn in a ballot, and it doesn't have to be someone from the household. So that has led to a lot of fraud. That has led to the overturning of a lot of the elections that Don was talking about from 2018, when we all thought we were winning the election night, and then we found out that the Democrats outsmarted us, and they used this law to their benefit. And we, as conservatives, failed to use this law. So let's talk about how we do use this law. There's a few things that are required of you as a person turning in the ballots. First, you know that you have an envelope that your ballot will be inserted into and sealed. The outside of that envelope is very important, and you must follow instructions. And they are just so easy to follow. But believe me, people do have a hard time following them. And I know, because we collected ballots at our church this last primary. Almost 4,000 ballots were collected at Calvary Chapel, Chino Hills. And we had people walk up to our tables, and we inspected the ballots, and we found that people made mistakes. So I want to talk about this ballot and what you need to know. But it's very simple. When you're taking someone's ballot and you're going to turn it in for a voter, you must print your name and sign your name and write whatever your relationship to the voter is. Typically, it's a family member, so you write husband, wife. Nowadays, if you're not related to the person, you can write neighbor, friend, co-worker. At the church, we're just writing the word associate because we are all associating at the same church. So that's how our relationship is, that connection. And then you also have to sign and date the ballot. The voter has to sign and date the outside of the envelope. And you have to follow those things because if you don't, you can get in trouble. And there are some people who did get in trouble for fraud, and it all is pertaining to the outside of that envelope. Another very important aspect of this law is that this ballot must be turned in within 3 days of the date that the person signs this ballot. Don't hold on to it any longer. If you hold on to it for a week or so and the person dated it the week prior and your name is on that envelope, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know that they're going to come after you, but you just don't want to do that. But one of the benefits of ballot harvesting or collecting is that you're going to say to the voter that you're going to hand deliver this ballot to the elections official. That's what we're saying at the church. We're not dropping the ballots in the mail. Anyone can do that. The voter can do that. So why would the voter hand their ballot over to you? Because you're going to guarantee that their ballot is going to be delivered to the elections official. So when we collected the ballots, we only collected for the 4 counties surrounding our church: San Bernardino, Los Angeles, Riverside, and Orange counties. Everyone else had to drop their ballots in the mail. Because what we did was we organized teams that took those ballots, walked them into the registrar's office for those 4 individual counties. So you have to decide, if you're going to be collecting ballots, if you want to actually do that. Do you want to be going into Riverside County within 3 days of collecting that ballot and dropping off that ballot? I hope you do. I think that it's going to make a big difference for us. But those are the main things about ballot collecting. Every county has a different envelope. Pretty much all of them require the same thing, some more, some less, but they're all pretty much the same. So you're going to just make sure that you're following the instructions on the outside of that envelope. And it's really pretty easy, actually, and it's easy to set up at the church. If you want some more information or more help about collecting at the church, I'll be doing some webinars and training everyone, but I think the handout that I created is very self-explanatory, and the letter that you can send to your church leadership is pretty self-explanatory, but let me know if you need more help. But I just want to talk a tiny bit about how at the church we can be more effective in getting out the vote. We can do voter registration drives. We probably have collected more voter registrations than the Republican Party has, but we have a lot of materials on our website, realimpact.us. For instance, party platform comparisons. It's a short form that a person can read before they actually register to vote if they're undecided about the party. And other things. We're going to have information on voter guides and also information about the election overall, how you can check your voter registration status, which is really important because we found that a lot of people have had their status changed without their knowledge. So there's a lot of information about that. And so I'm done, and I just want to make one announcement that Pastor Jack and I are organizing a large event called Come Back California. It's about focusing on this election, talking about the issues, and having some great speakers like Dennis Prager and Larry Elder and Charlie Kirk and others. It's going to take place on Saturday, September the 19th from 9 to 5 p.m. It's going to be live online only, YouTube and Facebook. We're not going to have an audience. It's free. And we hope that you'll tune in to hear from these great speakers talking about what's going on in California. So that's it.
Thank you, Gina. I'm going to unmute myself now so that, thank you so much, Gina. That was awesome. And it really is an important topic because as you saw with that election up in the 60th Assembly District where Chris Rahaga went from 400 votes up to 8,000 votes down, that was because of ballot harvesting. Now, the sad news is it didn't just affect him, it affected every down race in that district as well. So it affected school board races in the primary, it affected city council races, it affected all of the races that were on that ballot. Ballot harvesting did. So it's not just about that one race, it's about the entire hierarchy of what is actually unfolding. Okay, that was awesome. Thank you so much, Gina, for that briefing on ballot harvesting. We need to find more churches that are interested in that. So let me ask you in this room, and those of you that are online can think about this. How many of you go to church at 412? This is your home church. Okay, almost everybody. Is there anybody from outside 412 that is here this morning? Good. I would challenge you to have a conversation with your church leadership and ask them if they have any plans to do voter registration. Ask them if they have any plans to do ballot harvesting. And if they don't, figure out how to get that done and begin to give information to your church because Chino Hills Calvary Chapel was successful in gathering 4,000 ballots, and that was just their first attempt. It's going to be bigger and more and more huger in the fall. So challenge your churches to, begin to understand the impact that they can have, and that as we see today, what we're living through in this pandemic is prima facie evidence that churches have abdicated their role in the civic public square. And if more churches were influential in their public square, we would not have this pandemic resulting in a lockdown of our community, because in the beginning, I would submit, none of us really knew about coronavirus. We didn't know what COVID-19 was, the Wuhan virus, the China virus. It was real interesting. Last night on one of the news programs I was watching, they were talking about how the mainstream media does not want anybody referring to it as the China virus or the Wuhan virus. And then they did what my favorite thing is, which is a montage of the CNN and mainstream media commentators in January and February, and all of them were saying the China virus, the Wuhan virus. What happened? We exercised a little political muscle here in Riverside County when the churches were shut down in advance of Easter. And we had a protest in front of the County Board of Supervisors. Lori Stone organized that. Thank you very much. We were successful in getting the County Board of Supervisors to put pressure on this person that we never even knew existed inside the county administration, called a public health officer. Didn't know they existed, and didn't know that they had the political power to shut down this county, the economy. But they do. Now, we need to that's our political power. That's our decision-making process. We decide if we want to go somewhere with a mask on. We decide how to take care of our families. We want good information from our government about what the impact of this is, but we're responsible for protecting our most vulnerable. We should be responsible for deciding whether our kids go to school or not school systems shutting down. And we're beginning to learn about the trauma that's inflicting on that age group. Okay. Back to some of the final notes on our presentation. Let me see. I don't know if I do know how to do this, but it's going to take just a moment. I've got to go back into here. I got to do screen share. I got to go up here and choose the PowerPoint presentation, share it, and then go to our, where is that? All the way over here. Bang. Getting better at that. All right. So this is our training. How do you access this training? Well, this is how. First, let me just tell you a couple of quick things about the model that we're using. This model that we're training people into is the model that got President Trump elected in 2016 across this country. It's about developing neighborhood teams which have a greater output for capacity than previous volunteer structures. At the perimeter of this organization is the volunteer. That's the most important person, all the way down to what's called a field organizer. This ultimately encourages a camaraderie which increases volunteer enthusiasm and allows us to focus on relationships to drive voter contact rather than dropping off flyers at someone's door. We're building relationships in the community. That's one of the most important aspects about this. There are things called team leaders, core team members, and the volunteer, which engages in either the door-to-door contacting, voter registration, phone banking, or crowd building for events. That's going to be really, really important. Let me now go to where do we find volunteers? Everywhere, high schools, colleges. We need to get more young people involved in this. Social media, online, recruiting people via email. Through state and county parties, not so much here, but in the future here with county parties, house meetings. You can elect. Now, let me just say something about all these things. We're in an environment today where I think something called political entrepreneurism is going to be rewarded. If you think outside the box, which is what all this is, all this you're seeing today was the result of thinking outside the box. We got to do something differently. Kevin's doing something differently. We have people in different counties that are doing something different. We need to think outside the box about what we can do. You can think outside the box in your neighborhood. You could put a little pop-up at the end of your driveway, grab a couple of dozen donuts, a pot of coffee, and as people are walking by with their dogs, hand them a flyer about Prop 15. You can do it on a street corner. You can do it in the park. There are so many different things you can do to get this process started. You don't need other people. You don't need me. You don't need a candidate. You, remember, who has the political power in this country? You do. Start exercising it. Start doing something. You will probably or potentially could come up with an idea that nobody else has thought of. The brain trust in this room alone, if it was properly organized, could flip Riverside County, and that's what we're trying to do, is find people that have unique skill sets that we can organize into a combined effort so that we can flip Orange County back to red. All right, what's next? Here's the call to action as I wrap up. The first thing we need everybody to do is to go like our Facebook page, Town Hall Central. And if you're not on Facebook page, that's cool, I understand. But social media really is an amazing tool, and you should be on Facebook if only to see what else is there. You don't have to post stuff, you don't have to have an active profile, but get on Facebook so that at least you can go to organizations like this that are giving you information like I'm getting ready to give you right now. Who's heard of Millennial Millie? Okay, Millennial Millie just released a 2-part documentary exposing an organization called Sunrise Movement. Sunrise Movement is an organization that is a fellow traveler with Black Lives Matter that is recruiting junior high and high school students to get involved in eco-activism, helping to advance the green narrative. All right? You got to go watch her videos because she was just arrested. She was just arrested in advance of releasing a documentary on the topic of the U.S. shadow government, which was all set up to be screened on YouTube. I just got this on my phone announcing this, that she was just arrested. She's a reporter. Her husband and she were arrested at home. The arrest comes in the wake of her documentary released on the topic of the U.S. shadow government, which was all set up to be screened on YouTube, as she had teased in her last tweet. While there seems to be no confirmation as to why she was taken by officers, a string of speculative theories seem to have popped up on social media. Now, she was born in San Bernardino, California. I didn't know that until just reading this right now. But this is the kind of stuff that we post to our Facebook page that's really important. So like our Facebook page. Next, as the people in this room with the political power, we are also depending on you to be our marketing arm. It is up to each one of us to play a role in this process, and we have to go out into our communities and 5 to 10, or if you're really an overachiever, 100 people, and get them into these town halls in August and September so they can learn what's at stake in the election, so that they can see the opportunity to get into an orientation like we're doing today, so that they can be educated on stuff that's not being taught anywhere, and they can move into a training program and learn how to take political control of their neighborhoods. So we're depending on you guys because you're our marketing arm, because you know people we don't. And I would submit to you, I know in the city of Corona that I live in, of 170,000 people, that there are at least 10% of those people, 17,000 that feel like I do. We need those big numbers. It's important to have those big numbers because we got to get people elected. We got to find people that will run for office in the whole up and down the political spectrum. Register for the TVLI training, and that's what's next. So at this URL that's right there, cagop.org/s/virtual TVLI, that's where you access the training. And let me take you there right now. So I'm going to stop the screen sharing. Well, let's just go through this before I do. Register for future orientations because we're constantly improving this. So don't think because you've been through an orientation that you're going to get it the first time. We're sharing brand new information in each one of these orientations. Plus, I'm hoping that somewhere in this group, this greater group of 200 people who have been through our orientations is someone that can start doing the orientations so we can begin to multiply ourselves. Because, people get tired of hearing from me. So, and then contribute. So if you don't have time, if you're busy, if you got family, we really do need contributions, financial support. We actually now have a $5,000 contribution that's a matching contribution. So for every contribution that we take in, the money is being stewarded by the Lincoln Club of Riverside County. It doesn't come into my pocket. And they release it when we have expenses that are related to walking this project forward. So we need to access that $5,000. So every dollar that is contributed right now is matched by somebody else up to $5,000. So let me go to this TVLI screen. I'm going to stop screen sharing, go out, grab a browser window, and then we're going to wrap up this portion. And I'm going to bring Doc back up so he can continue with our morning. And I'm really looking forward to the next speaker, Robert Tyler, who's done some great legal work on behalf of churches and businesses in this county. You guys are in for a treat. But let me right now go to CAGOP Virtual TVLI so that I can share with you a little bit about what you're going to encounter here when you go out and do this. All right. Get back up the screen sharing. All right. So this is the page that you're going to find when you put that URL in. You're going to put your first name, last name, email, phone number. These are the classes that are available. And then you're going to go into this box right here with the magnifying glass, and you're going to click on that. And what's going to happen is that's going to bring up a group of courses in a moment that address all of those various different issues that I just went through. Sign up for those. They're about 15 to 20 minutes long each, probably a little longer with questions. I don't know if my internet's just acting slowly or what, but trust me, up comes a list. Now, here's what to expect. When you sign up for that class, write down that class and the time and the date that you signed up for it. Because you won't get an immediate confirmation. You'll get a notice probably the morning of, or maybe even a couple hours before the class is to begin, with the URL, the Zoom URL, so that you can get into the room. Not sure why this is, let me just refresh this window and see if that helps us so I can give you a real life demonstration of what is going to happen. Looks like maybe something's going on with their website or my receiving of it, but trust me, a whole list comes up. And you need to jot down what you sign up for. Now, we will be doing a boot camp, which is going to roll 3 or 4 of those things together, but don't let that stop you until we actually get that established. So that would be more of an hour to 1 hour and 15 minutes, but it'll walk you through the critical classes. And that's how you get started. We need to see that you go through these classes because we need to know that we're moving people that are seriously engaged into the next step of the process. Good? What an old pastor of mine used to say is, get it, you say got it, and I say good. So let's do that. Get it? Got it. Good. All right. Doc, I'm going to return control of the meeting to you so that you can take us forward. I'm going to leave this computer up so that the people at home can continue to at least vicariously participate in this. I'll probably put the computer down there so that they can see the whole stage. But those of you that are at home, if you want to continue to participate in the Zoom meeting as we continue here with Robert Tyler of Tyler and Bursch, Doc is going to introduce them. Oh, by the way, this flyer, little marketing piece you can pick up on the way out. It tells you about Town Hall. It gives a URL where people can actually sign up so that they can get onto our email list. And that's really important. So you can grab a couple of these and hand these out and encourage people to sign up so they can get on the email list and participate in what's going on. And Doc, thanks for the opportunity to be with you guys this morning.
Thank you. Think I'm on? Yeah, I'm on. Great. Can you ask a question? Can you hang for a second?
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll ask a question.
Ask a question.
Yeah, you had talked about 3 different organizations. One of them was
Yes. Oh, WRCOG is the first. SCAG, Southern California Area Governments, are the second. And Sandbag is the third. That's the organization that does that, but that's down in San Diego. WRCOG stands for Western Regional Council of Governments. And that's the one that has Riverside County embedded in it. Doc, can she ask another question? I
Yes.
think that's the second question is $5, right? Yes.
And it'll be matched. So
And they
go
match.
for it.
You had that thing that showed like the volunteers on the outside and, when it's the different.
Yes, the little schematic. That'll be in the training, because there's a training in there that tells you how the whole process works. So that's one of the trainings. I just copied some of the slides out of the training just to give you an idea of how this works.
Don, can we maybe get some of those slides that we can send out to the church here? Just
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
And for those here in the room, the question was asked, where can you get this information? Because the screens were a little, for this session here, it's going to be online and archived at Our Watch. So if you were struggling to see the screen, maybe you're snapping a picture and zooming in, that you can get that online when we're done here. And again, thank you all for being here this morning. I mean, this is one of those, another question. That's $10.
Yeah, goes up every time. Yes.
If we cannot attend the live Zoom meeting, is there a way to watch it afterward? Will it be available? Because sometimes Thursday nights.
Right, that's a great question. This comes down to manpower. There's a lot of work in taking the recording of the Zoom call and then reformatting it so it can be uploaded to either YouTube or for a Facebook watch party. That is in process. We're getting that done. So that library that we already have now of 5 different Zoom calls will be available on YouTube for on-demand viewing, and we will be posting those for watch parties on our Facebook page. So watch for the watch parties.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Do I have a $20 question? Hey, 20 bucks.
Here we go, $20 question. All right.
Sure. Do you know the answer to that?
I'm going to
Don,
answer
whether
that
they
for
were meeting
Gina.
or
She's
not at that
online,
time?
but it's a lot of work for the AV booth to switch back. But I'm going to answer that saying that, yes, that was on March 3rd, leading up to the election on March 3rd. So that was before we were locked down. However, it's even more of an opportunity, I think, now for people to be able to drive to someplace that they know. I see Gina's popped up. Do you want to shake your head up and down yes if you want to try to answer that question? So could you bring Gina into the conversation? Could you pull her volume up? Hang
Sure.
on,
The
she's
question, while you're doing that, the question was when those ballots were harvested, whether or not the churches were meeting at that time and what we should do about that now, basically, correct?
Yes. All right. You can't pull her
Can't
up?
do it?
Sorry. Can't pull you up, I'm sorry, audio-wise because of what's going on here. But I tell you what we will do. I'll find out the answer to that, and we'll somehow
Sure.
put it on the... This video is being posted to your Facebook page, right? Our Watch?
Our Watch.
So YouTube. So I'll post the answer to the YouTube of today, so go out and find that. And Gina, if you could write out the answer for us and send that to me in a text. You did in the chat room? Oh. Let's see if I can read it in the chat room. How about that? Boy, look at this technology. We're just,
We'll find a way to communicate.
man. I got to go down to the bottom. Go to the other bottom?
Yeah, there you go.
The other bottom at top? Nope.
No, sorry, you did the bottom.
Yep. I don't see it there, Gina. No. I'll tell you what, I don't want to hold up the meeting. We'll figure out a way by the end of
Sure.
the day to get it to you. So there you go.
Perfect.
No more questions.
No more questions. We stop at $30.
Don, I've got a question. When do we start ballot harvesting?
When that starts is going to be when the ballots go out. The ballots go out on October the 3rd. They're mailed out October the 3rd. So if you're a neighborhood influencer, you're going to want to get into the process of meeting your neighbors starting in the beginning of September. That's what we're building up this into. So beginning of September, you'll have scripts and flyers to be able to knock on your neighbor's door and go, look at what they're trying to do to Prop 13 in our business, all that stuff. And remember to ask questions. Do you know what they're doing? Better phrase. So October 3rd is when they go out. You'll start building relationships before then.
Okay. I'm sorry, it's a $100 question over here.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm running for city council, and I have been attempting to knock on doors. No one wants to open their doors.
Okay.
Because, and I don't blame them. What I've been finding out is when people have their garage door open on like Saturday.
Okay.
I see American flags.
Right.
flying. I go to those homes.
Okay.
And then I ask, who are your neighbors? Who can I direct me to somebody else?
Right.
You've got to connect dots. When you go to people, they will not open their doors. That's something
True.
I've been running into a lot.
Interesting. I have a feeling a lot of this shutting down of the community
Right.
is directly related to trying to tamp down us and our effectiveness of organizing into the election.
Right.
So great. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah,
What
just to-
city, what
just to re-
district? What city, what district are you?
District 3. To rephrase all of that for those online, the comment was, you're running District 3 Menifee, right? And you have trouble with people opening their doors. And you found that your secret is look for those doors that are already open. Garage doors on weekends, flags out, people mowing their lawn, whatever. They're already out rather than try to knock that. That's a great point. And this is the kind of stuff, it may sound real simplistic, but these are the kinds of things that we need to continue to share with each other so that we are effective, because we are closed in many places like the church. Not this church, but some churches are closed.
Don,
Yes?
Right.
can you talk about walking sheets?
Sure.
So Doc is talking about getting to know your neighborhoods and who has the flag out. And with walking sheets, what does that help us do?
So what a walk sheet is a printout of your neighborhood registered voters. And it will show you what party they're with. It'll show you their voting history. And it'll guide you as to who to knock on the door of and who not to knock on the door of. But what we don't want people to do is knocking on doors of socialists getting into arguments. There's so much low-hanging fruit out in our communities that we don't need to be worried about trying to change people's minds. There's not enough time to do that, quite frankly. So just go out. We're trying to find the low-hanging fruit in our communities, those people that already think like us, but maybe aren't as informed. And the process is to inform them and get them to build a comfort level with you so that one day you can go back and say, hey, you got your mail-in ballot on October 6th. Can I help you fill it out or help you get it turned in? And people will be more likely to get to know their neighbors, because you can go up to a neighbor's door and go, hey, I just live 7 doors down, than what somebody that's not from that neighborhood is running into. And plus, you're there, and it's more convenient for you to be able to go in. So we
How do we get those?
Once you go through this orientation and the training, we now know where you live. So we get you the walk sheets for your area.
Good. All right, we're up to $200. You got a question?
To answer this lady's question, I believe for 12, we are
Harvesting.
ballots.
Right, 412 it.
Drop off here.
Correct.
Any churches that are not meeting or open, if we can get the word out, we will take them.
Okay.
Perfect.
Come here and do it.
Okay, so message online was
Am I
we're
good?
ballot harvesting here at 412. Wait, one more.
Ballot boxes from the churches, access to those, I've called and
To what?
Ballot boxes?
Yeah, that's something the ROV is going to make available to those people that are doing this kind of work. They're just inundated right now. So there will be secured lock boxes, and if not, Jacob has a saw at home, and he's going to build one. I just voluntold you. Yes, we really got to get moving.
We're fine.
Oh, from Gina's site? Yeah, you can go to Real Impact, and there's all kinds of great resources. Say it again? Okay. Well, see me afterwards, and or go to Real Impact. Maybe we'll pull that up and show it to you. We'll pull it up on the computer back here and flash that so that you guys can see where to go download that stuff.
One of the things that everybody here, what we've got set up outside, please leave your name, email, your contact information, the city that you're in, and maybe a note as to what church you're going to. We want to organize that, and I know there's only one of you, Don, but I would suggest that maybe in 2 weeks we do this same event with business owners, with the attorney, and with Don and Gina, and just get more people into the room and get more people online.
I'm more than willing to do this.
Yeah.
I mean, this is my life right now.
Invite other churches in, but please
That and
leave
a little
your
radio show, but you know.
$5.90. But please leave your contact information up front.
Yes, real important.
And we'll follow up with that.
How you doing today, man?
Yeah, great. So, and this is a great example of where we weren't planning a Q&A, and this is the reason why we need to participate and why we need to keep coming back, because the information does change, and there's new information for each meeting. This is our first Open Cal Biz Now meeting where we've combined with Town Hall Central for what they've been doing and what we're doing, and it seems to me that the elephant in the room is like, man, you're being asked to know and do a lot of things. But where are we? Where are we now? Where just a few months ago, this was the furthest thing from our mind of meeting on a Saturday morning to go, hey, let's make something happen. So Open Cal Biz Now is all about gathering businesses together as one unified voice. And the more that we can have, the better we are. As Lloyd points out so many times, that we don't have the unions. I mean, and I say it another way, and that is, I run a small business, and it's just me. And what can I do? And this is what you can do. We have so many different opportunities for you. Town Hall Central, and as Lloyd has talked about on the back table, we have voter registration. We have Recall Gavin. We have anything that you can do. But the point is, do something. Do something. In fact, one of the action points that we have for Open Cal Biz Now is that we want to form a strike force to go to the county supervisor board meetings. And we want to do that all the time. And we have great information for you, but we want to organize that. So we're asking today that you put your name on that list to say, yes, I will go and I will speak if I can go. If I can't go, I will go to their Zoom calls and I will speak. And if I can't do that, I will write a letter or an email and ask it to be read into the record. Those are the kinds of things we're asking for. We will help you do that, and we will coach you on it, but we need to know who you are and that you will do it. And I wanted to have Lloyd up here, too. We came into this just by two guys that said, hey, you know what? We got to do something. Businesses are closing. Lives are being affected all over the place. And so we formulated this opencalbiznow.com, and it's really that simple. We're just here to help gather and here to help support. If you have a business that's in trouble, we want to help you with that. We want to connect the dots for you. And more importantly, we want to be action. We want to put hands and feet to this. And Lloyd wants to talk about, I want you to talk about the mission and the mission statement and what you had on your mind this morning.
So number one, we're here to engage, right? We're here to engage and encourage people. When this started happening back in March, I flipped out. I couldn't find my tribe. People weren't responding. We were told by political people in the county, we're just going to have to wait it out. So Lori Stone, who's here, organized a rally May 5th, and that's where I got connected with Pastor Tim. That's where I got connected with Doc. It's where I got connected with our next speaker, Bob Tyler. And I started attending, my wife and I, Renee, started attending 412 Church. And then through that, my passion is just to do that, is to engage, encourage, inform, and then lay out through these great leaders that we have within the church, people like Doc and Pastor Tim and Don Dix, next steps. What do we need to be doing? And it is overwhelming. It's overwhelming. It's like the unions are so big. The political machine on the other side is so big, but we've got the hand of God on us. And the scripture that comes to me over and over and over again is that, and this is Matthew 9:38, I believe, the harvest is great, the workers are few, but pray earnestly to the Lord, and he will put the workers into the harvest. And that's what we've got to keep in mind. So my passion, my mission that I see with all of this with Doc is to create over the next 60 days, which would take us through October 15th, a database of 2,000 influencers. So we have, between Doc and I, we've got a couple hundred people. I know Don Dix through Town Hall, he's got a list of about 1,200, but let's create a database of 2,000 neighborhood influencers, and through the great leadership that we have here, we will organize, we will influence other churches, we will influence other private businesses. We've got some great businesses here today that are going to talk about how they've maintained and they've continued to stay open. We need to get that message out. But we've got two of the greatest unions in the world, private businesses and the body of Christ. And we just need to organize in database. So with the Open Cal Biz, we've got a stack of cards. Take a stack with you. And it's designed to say, here, join us. Join us now because together we're stronger. And all it is, it's a funnel to collect names and emails and contact information for people that want to get involved.
Our next guest, I love introductions, long resumes and things. I can just say that his name is one of the names on the firm. He's one of the founding members of Tyler and Birch, and also the mastermind behind Advocates for Faith and Freedom, and currently representing and defending churches, hundreds of them in California, and also businesses. Please welcome Bob Tyler.
Okay. Okay. Hello. Hey, Warnie, how are you? An old friend. Well, it's great to have you all out here. You know, sometimes it seems like we're in this battle alone. It's frustrating. We have been battling the governor, our law firm, and our nonprofit organization since, I don't know, probably, when did this thing start? March, April? Probably about April. And I think we filed our first lawsuit in May. We represent, presently we have 3 lawsuits against the governor on behalf of churches. The first lawsuit was brought in Lodi, or on behalf of a church out of Lodi, California, who was, basically the sheriffs came in the very beginning and prevented them from entering the property. And this was 2 weeks into the 2 weeks into the event, or 2 weeks into the state of emergency. And this pastor said, well, you can't stop us from worshiping God and going to church. And so he did it, and next thing you knew, the sheriff was there, the Lodi Police Department actually, and prevented them from entering the building. And then the next case came along for when the governor issued the ban on singing. Remember that? But this was after the health orders from the state gave us some ideas of what was permissible. Remember this one? It's permissible to drive to the beach, sit in your car, and watch the sunset. Really? I'm not the only one that saw that, right? Right? Okay, so just anybody out there in internet land, there's other people raising their hands, and I'm assuming some of you have seen it as well. It was just shocking to think that here they are telling us we can drive to the beach and watch the sunset as long as you sit in your car, or something stupid like that. We were told in the beginning, was it 25 million people are going to get the disease and 2 million are going to die in California? And now, of course, that's not even close to what happened. So, when you start taking a look early on to see what was the basis of this underlying closure in the first place, I can point some of those things out to you, and I will. What the law says, I'll read it to you. You'll be bored, but hang in there. Let me just do that right now. Let's talk about what's the underlying foundation for this. So I'm pulling up a memo we had written. So the California Government Code says, during a state of emergency, the governor shall, to the extent he deems necessary, have complete authority over all agencies of the state government and the right to exercise within the area designated all police power vested in the state by the Constitution and laws of the state of California in order to effectuate the purposes of this chapter. In exercise thereof, he shall promulgate, issue, and enforce such orders and regulations as he deems necessary in accordance with the provisions of this section of the Government Code. That's a lot of authority. That's king-making authority. It's the Health and Safety Code says, the health officer may require strict or modified isolation or quarantine for any case of contagious, infectious, or communicable disease when the action is necessary for the protection of public health. To that, and further, in the Health and Safety Code, to that end, the department may, if it considers it proper, take possession or control of the body of any living person or the corpse of any deceased person. The governor shall proclaim the state of emergency, proclaim the termination. This is what we're all concerned about, really, mainly. Governor shall proclaim the termination of the state of emergency at the earliest possible date that conditions warrant. All right, remember that. Earliest possible date that conditions warrant. So, we started off with 25 million are going to get this disease, and that may very well wind up being true. We're going to wind up with herd immunity if we're not almost getting close already. We're going to wind up with herd immunity, and but 2 million people dying doesn't look like that at all. Did anybody know how many people in California have actually died so far from coronavirus, supposedly? Anybody know? How many? 4,000-ish? Okay. Probably not far off, I'm guessing. You could look it up on Google. If you find it, tell me. It's interesting. So here's the deal. So for those of you who are businesses, this is really what we're talking about today, right? We want to get business reopened. And how are we going to get the businesses reopened in California? How are we going to get the businesses reopened when we can't even get the churches reopened? When there's a First Amendment right to the free exercise of religion, which is one of the most significant rights, most prominent rights, the first liberty that we have. And the courts are afraid to do anything about it. Frankly, this is why back in May, we launched the campaign, the Declaration of Essentiality, where we had, a few thousand pastors and church leaders signing up saying, we declare that church is essential, and we are going to open up on May 31st, regardless whether the governor approves it or not. And we put that kind of political pressure because I realized, and the couple other folks, well, actually myself and Jack Hibbs in our conversations, we realized the governor is not going to loosen his grip until he's forced to loosen his grip. And that's what we, the people, had to do. We had to say, we are going to reopen no matter what. Well, the good news is, churches can meet again, but the bad news is that he kind of squeezed back and says, okay, well, you can only have a certain number of people, and now he's saying you have to meet outdoors. And there's churches like my client up in Thousand Oaks, Pastor Rob McCoy, who says, no, we're going to meet indoors. Same thing we're doing here today, same thing that is going on here at Tim's church here at 412. Meeting indoors, saying, we're going to meet indoors. Go ahead and arrest us. So here's where we're at with Pastor Rob McCoy. Up in Ventura County, they're going after him. Good news out here is, the district attorney Mike Hestron, our sheriff, wonderful people. They're not going to enforce the rules here. They're not going to enforce the law. Up in Ventura, similar thing. So what's happening in Ventura is the county is going after the county itself, the county counsel's office. So there's these lawyers that work inside the county. They don't work for the sheriff. They don't work for the district attorney's office. They're called county counsel, and they handle the civil affairs of the county. So they're the ones who are out battling and coming against the church. They filed a lawsuit and sought a restraining order. They got a restraining order a week ago Actually, it was a week ago yesterday. Pastor Rob says, I'm meeting indoors. So he violated the restraining order. And then what happened? Then the county came last Monday and filed a motion for sanctions and asked a judge to lock the doors of the church to prevent them from using the church again. Well, guess what happened? On Monday morning, the judge that granted the restraining order, we filed what's called, we papered him. That means we've got one shot at getting rid of a judge. When you file a lawsuit, if a judge is appointed, you don't like him, you get rid of him. And you call it papering the judge. We papered him. We got appointed to a different judge. So on Tuesday, when the county came back in and sought to have their temporary restraining order strengthened by closing the doors, by ordering they be locked by the sheriff's department, the judge said, no, that's a step too far. I'm not going to do that. So, yeah, that's great. Thank the Lord. It was probably the most fun argument I've ever had in my life, because you're sitting here going, Your Honor, this is what the restraining order says. He violated it. But let's talk about the big picture here. We're going to start shutting down churches. You're going to lock the doors of the church. Anyway, so we went. It was kind of fun because it was almost you can't lose. Anything other than them locking the doors of the church is a win. So that was kind of fun. And so we got that, and we were successful. Just John MacArthur's church just recently, you may have heard, the county of Los Angeles went and tried to get a restraining order against his church and tried to get the same thing and lock them down. However, the judge in Los Angeles said, no, I'm not going to give you the restraining order you're asking for. The only thing I will do is say that if they're going to meet indoors, they have to wear masks and do social distancing. So that was good, because now they're still able to meet indoors and air conditioning, et cetera, et cetera. It's not what we want necessarily, but it's a victory. It's a step in the right direction. First two judges, frankly, in all of California, in federal and state courts, who have given us anything favorable, that has done anything favorable for the First Amendment in this COVID crisis, that is. So that brings us to where we sit today. I'll give you a little bit more about what we're doing. So we've had a lot of businesses come our way and say, can't you help us? Can you file a lawsuit? And unfortunately, yeah, we can file a lawsuit. But there's the likelihood of getting a judge to rule in favor of a business, if we can't get him to rule in favor of a church, is minimal. So we need to build our wall. We need to lay a foundation, and we need to get the wins on the First Amendment. And then from the First Amendment wins, then we can take it to the 14th Amendment, life, liberty, due process, and then begin arguing on behalf of businesses. But we have to, if we can get the churches reopened back to normal, that'll help significantly. There's another area that we're going after now. So not only we're just in the thick of dealing with the Godspeak Calvary Chapel with Pastor Rob McCoy and trying to keep him out of jail. And literally, it's kind of funny, literally, trying to make sure he doesn't go to jail. We'll have a hearing, I'm sorry, by the way, I'll backtrack. Monday, I've got to file a brief. They have a hearing on their contempt motion against Rob Friday. And then I file, and on Friday, I have to file an opposition to their motion for preliminary injunction that they're trying to get against the church as well. All this legal complications, I'm sorry, it's a little confusing, but bottom line is a big week for him. big week for us. We've got a ton going on with that. At the same time, we're trying to file this week 2 lawsuits on behalf of private schools and on behalf of public schools. So we were hired by the Orange County Board of Education to bring a lawsuit. I shouldn't even say hired. That means getting paid. We're not being paid. None of this. But by the way, we're a nonprofit organization. Anybody who wants to help us, love your support. We have a private law firm where we represent business, and we make a living at it. But these days, there's not enough time to, frankly, it's been really tough because since COVID came, I've been working almost full time just doing the nonprofit work. So, we've got 9 attorneys in our firm, so if you ever need anything, come see us. But we're filing these 2 lawsuits. So Orange County Board of Education retained us to bring this lawsuit to reopen schools. Now, California Constitution has this provision that says all children are entitled to 1, a public education, 2, to equal education to their counterparts elsewhere in the state. That means that poor kids in Santa Ana are entitled to the same benefits and same equal education that the rich kids in Newport Beach might get. That means the rich kids in Newport Beach can pay for tutoring. They have technology. They can have the latest of everything. They have these pods. They have, one parent staying at home, the other parent making a bunch of money. Meanwhile, in Santa Ana, I represent a lady who has 5 kids. 2 kids have special needs. Her husband is a drug addict. She's in the midst of a divorce with him, unfortunately. So she's gone, or he's gone. He's not in the picture. She has a 15-year-old, 11, 9, 7, 4, and 1. I think that I said 5 kids, right? Is that right? She's got a part-time job, and she's trying to take care of these kids. And welfare covers 1/2 of her expenses. She has to earn the other half of the expenses, so that means she's got to work. She's got a job where she works from usually about 9 till 1. Her 15-year-old's taking after the father, and so he's off and about. And so now mom is sitting here in this horrific situation. She's attending Calvary Chapel of Orange now. And, she's trying to keep everything afloat. And now the school's shut down. So now she's trying to figure out, okay, now what do I do? How do I pay for childcare to go to work? And it doesn't make sense to go to work sometimes because, so bottom line, here's what she's doing. So she's making $13, $14 an hour. She's paying $50 a week to her cousin who's watching the kids while she's gone. The 15-year-old's out gallivanting in Santa Ana doing things that otherwise he would have been in school. So what winds up happening is you have this horrible situation where single moms, and think about single moms, they don't have to be in that kind of condition. I mean, they could be a professional single mom that is, makes a really good income, but now, she's got a 6-year-old at home who's supposed to be learning. And she's got a full-time job, and now she's got to decide, how am I going to balance the two? And maybe she's, a nurse at a hospital or something like that. Then what? So we're bringing this lawsuit. We're going to say that it's not lawful for the state to keep things shut down because these families are being treated differently, and a lot of kids are falling through the cracks. A lot of kids are falling through the cracks. Trump gave a message in 2 days ago, I think it was, and he had this education summit, and it was saying that kids are, from last year, at the end of last year, they were 50% behind in math on average and 25% behind in English, I think is what it was, in reading. So, this whole online thing just doesn't work. So for us, we're going to bring this lawsuit on behalf of both public and private schools. We're going to go straight to the California Supreme Court. It's a unique strategy. There have been plenty of cases filed in the federal courts, and we all know what's happened. Nothing. The federal judges are afraid to do anything because they want to leave everything to the local officials because they trust them. They have to trust the governor. And often, federal judges, I'm Let me just put it, you got to have a judge that's really got some courage in order to do anything about coming against these orders. And that's been the hardest thing, is finding a judge with guts. Finding a judge who's willing to stand out there and say, you know what, I might make a decision that someone might actually die because I say reopen, allow the business to reopen, allow the church to reopen, allow the school to reopen. Yes, someone might die because of that. And the judge ends up looking at that and has to realize, well, this is a nation of liberty. And so the person who's vulnerable should protect themselves and stay home. The person who's vulnerable should exercise their own wisdom as to whether or not they go out in the crowd, whether they go to church, whether that's how we've always dealt with it. So here's the deal. We're bringing this lawsuit, and the hope is that we're going straight to the California Supreme Court through a case called writ of mandate in the first instance. Now, it's very unusual. The court doesn't have to accept our case, but we hope they will, because there's two standards: a case of extreme importance and urgency. And this is a case of urgency and extreme importance, reopening the schools. If we can get the schools reopened, then guess what? The governor is going to have to sit back, and he's going to feel the pressure. He's going to have to do something about it. So, Lord willing, we're going to get this filed this coming week. Problem of it is it's a ton of work, so it's just taking us time. And what we're having to do is we're having to gather a ton of expert witnesses. We're gathering, I've got epidemiologists, we have psychologists, we have all these experts talking about what's happening here. Okay, so I can run through all sorts of statistics that really undermine the whole validity of this order, and the fact that the governor's responsibility is to terminate the state of emergency at the earliest possible date. So it's our position that we now have to attack the governor's underlying basis in the first place for even continuing this state of emergency, because it's not what everyone expected it to be, and it's definitely not better because of the actions taken by the governor. That's not it. It's because it's not as bad as they thought it was going to be. One of the things that our epidemiologist is saying is that, I'll give you just a couple things. One, there are, with regard to children, for example, in the United States, there's been about 2,700 kids who have died with quote-unquote COVID infection. Now, we all know, I hope you all know, that at this point in time, most kids with COVID don't even show any symptoms. Okay, so the only ones who do die, typically, if they're a child, it's because they have some underlying health condition, which is horrible, right? But parents, you've got underlying health conditions with your kids, keep them home, isolate them until this infection goes away. We need to build herd immunity. And the best way to build herd immunity is really allowing kids to go back to school, because they don't get sick. And you need to get to the point where the general population has enough, it's gone through most of the population, and then those people who are in the small 5-10% who have underlying health conditions, then they'll be able to get back out in society. According to our epidemiologists, that could have been done in about 4 weeks. So what would have happened in the very beginning, if you simply allowed this disease to progress, then and the sick and vulnerable stayed home, then at this point in time, everyone would be back out to normal. Now, with kids, 2,700 or so have died, and of those, about 54 died with influenza. Only 23 or 22 died with COVID-19. The epidemiologist says, look, this goes to show that, especially for kids, influenza is twice as deadly as COVID-19 when it comes to kids. And so why are we keeping the schools closed? Are we closing school because of influenza? No, we've never done that. When you take a look at the data on adults and young people, let's look at the adult population, generally speaking. Anybody who's not a minor, anybody under 18, by and large, they're fine. Anybody who's over 18, By and large, you're fine, actually. But here's the data. 1/2 or so of everyone who's died from COVID-19 so far have been in nursing homes. Set aside the nursing homes, the risk of the general population dying, if you take the total number of confirmed cases, not the total number of actual cases, just the total number of confirmed cases, and you divide it by the number of people who have died, you're at about 1% death rate in the United States. If you say, okay, well, let's be realistic and let's take the number of people who have had COVID-19. So in the county of Los Angeles, USC did a study, and I want to say it was about a 4.6% find that 4.6 of the general population had COVID-19, and this was a number of months ago. Okay, if you take 4.6% of the population, multiply that by the population in LA County, or what I'm doing right now in Ventura, I'm extrapolating it over to Ventura. Ventura has about 850,000 people. You wind up 4.6%, it winds up being about 35-some thousand people that likely had COVID-19 already. They have the antibodies, they're safe, they made it, didn't die. You take that 35,000 total number and you divide it by the number of people who died in Ventura. So for example, in Ventura, they had last week it was 79, I think it might have 82 now, but let's go with 79. 79 people died. 79 divided by 35,000 plus, what's that wind up being? 0.19%, I believe it is. So it's let's call it a 0.2%. So what is that? That's 2/100ths of 1%, right? 2/100ths of 1%, or 2/1000ths, whichever one it is small. It's ridiculously small. And that's of the total population. When you start taking a look at, my numbers might be slightly off, so don't hold me. You can calculate it and see yourself. Whatever it is, it's fraction of a percent. When you start taking a look at the number of those 79 people who have died, how many of them are over 65? All but 15. So anybody who's under 65, what's their risk of dying from COVID-19? 15 people divided by 35,000 plus. What do you wind up with? 0.00 something or other. It's like really, really small. Well, let's take those 15 people under 65. How many of them had underlying health conditions? So of those 15 people, you know, some of the studies I've seen is about 79% of all people who've died of COVID-19 have had underlying health conditions. So 20% of the 15 did not have underlying health conditions. So that means most people who are generally healthy, so you got 2 or 3 people out of 35,000 plus who died of COVID-19 that did not have underlying health conditions and were under 65 years old. So what's that percentage? I want to say it's like 0.0049%, something like that. It's super small. So the studies, what we're doing now is we're going to be attacking in our pleadings the underlying basis for the state of emergency. And we're going to be arguing that the governor is not terminating this at the earliest possible date that he could reasonably do it. The earliest possible date that conditions warrant. And our argument is conditions warrant it. And there are other mechanisms that can be done instead of keeping everything shut down. And it's interesting that here we are, who are the ones that are promoting the shutdown? Well, one, we can talk about one party who's doing it. 2, we can also look at it and say it's people who are getting paid. It's people who are living, who get paid from the taxpayers. So we, the people, are paying the people, and they're living off of us, and they're making the decision to keep us shut down. And they get their paycheck no matter what. The unions, they're happy with this. Any teachers in here? I wouldn't think so. No, I'm kidding. My daughter's a teacher. My wife's been a teacher, but they taught in private. Anyways, the point is that our real situation here is that we've got the wrong people making decisions. We're not talking about entrepreneurs like President Trump who's saying, open this thing up. We're talking to these career government people who have no idea what it means to be paid in private enterprise or to have their own business and to not get paid. So it's It's a horrible condition. So bottom line for businesses, this is where we're at. If we can attack on behalf of public schools and private schools and use this equal protection argument, and at the same time bring in the argument that there's no underlying basis for the continued state of emergency, and we can take it directly to the California Supreme Court, and they make a decision, Lord, let us win. If we can't win, I don't know what to say. Honestly, if the California Supreme Court doesn't take our case, then this thing just goes on. And it's going to be months before we can really get a court to step in and do anything. And where does that lead all of you? I'll tell you one thing. You've got a good sheriff. We have a good I live here in Riverside County. We've got a good sheriff. We got a good DA. Our real problem is county council. The county council is a guy who's not on our side. And that county council is the one who's sending out the cease and desist letters. He's the one who's sending out saying, stop, 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 stop. And he's the one that's threatening the $1,000 fines. We're not worried about criminal prosecution in Riverside County. It's the same thing in Ventura County. Most likely the same thing in LA County. Most counties are like that. We're not worried about the DA or the sheriff because they don't want to enforce these rules. And they themselves see these things as being unconstitutional. And they see that this state of emergency has gone long, way too long. So Pastor Tim and I were talking, and I don't know, gentlemen, have you guys talked about the county council? Did you? Okay, something's got to happen. This is the same guy that, we fought on behalf of Calvary Chapel Bible Fellowship, who started the case off saying churches are not allowed in the wine country. Okay, this is right here locally. Churches are not allowed in the wine country. He goes to the district judge, and the federal district judge says, you know what? The way I read the ordinance is churches could be in the wine country as a special occasion facility. And the county council argues, no, they're not allowed at all. No, and the judge says, I think that's right. And then, so the judge rules against the church. So then we go to the Ninth Circuit. What's county council do? Oh, we changed this whole thing. Oh yeah, churches are allowed in the wine country. We never told them that they weren't allowed in the wine country. 9 years of having to deal with these people. 9 years of trying to get this church approved, and now this county council is just a liar, in my opinion. He's a thief, and he needs to be taken away. He needs to go to jail. There was a grand jury investigation on him. I know people who have been terminated from him unlawfully, in my opinion. I think that what has to happen is in Riverside County, we got to get rid of him. That's one way that we're going to be able to stand up. If we can get rid of county council, then I think there's going to be a lot more peace here. Now, peace for those of us who say, we're going to open our business. We're going to keep operating because the sheriff and the DA are not going to come after us. And frankly, the Board of Supervisors, let's see if they've got the real guts. Now, the problem of it is they're sitting here relying upon county council. Oh, we have to enforce these laws. And one of the things I was talking to a county council yesterday out of Fresno. And, again, another guy he's quote unquote conservative, one of us, agrees with a lot of things, but he says, you know what? The governor carries all the purse strings. And, the county totally relies on the government for the most part to be able to get their money in order to fund everything. And so they're beholden to the governor. But we need a board of supervisors who's going to say, no, we don't care. I'd rather spend a year without money in the county and eventually get a new governor in the office and get rid of this county council than to live, give me liberty or give me death. So, gentlemen, yeah, he should have been fired after the last grand jury investigation that came out about, 3-4 months ago. So here's what you have to do. You got to rally people to get in front of the Board of Supervisors and go down there, and let's hold another protest to fire Greg Priamos. Okay? The guy's dirty, in my opinion, in other ways. Greg Priamos. And a campaign needs to be led to fire him. He's appointed by the supervisors, and it's time to get rid of him. So, you know what? I give all of this to you. You can investigate it yourself. This is my opinion, I will say. Okay? I'm not trying to defame the guy by telling you untruths. These are things that I believe to be true, my opinion. And but I do believe that if he was gone, it would be much better here in the county, and especially if our county supervisors appointed somebody who was like-minded, like us. And they're ultimately going to say, well, but it's, you know, we have to enforce, we have to take some action to appease the governor. Well, stop worrying about appeasing the governor. That's it. I am in the midst of a lot of legal briefing, and unfortunately I can't stick around. So I'll just ask if you have any questions before I leave. Doc? Yes, ma'am. Yep. Nothing. Nothing. I mean, the Calvary Chapel case was handled by by an organization that I used to work for years ago. Friends, good lawyers, and they made a wonderful argument. The fact is that churches are limited to, I think it was 50 people, but Caesar's Palace was limited to 50%. So they could have, 15,000 people if their capacity was 30,000. I don't know how big they are. Depends on whatever venue they had. It was absolutely ridiculous that Justice Roberts ruled against us. And so my concern is, right now, is Roberts. We don't know where he stands these days. Horrible. And here's the thing. The good news, I will say, we can hold on to a little bit of hope. That case went up on a temporary restraining order, okay? And that means, or I should say, it was a temporary restraining order. It means that it was an emergency motion. And the facts down below were not necessarily developed through discovery and depositions, et cetera, et cetera. A normal case, it's a year of, process, grinding through the process, and then a real record is laid at the trial court, and then it goes up. So it didn't happen in that case. It went up very quick based upon the face of the law. Now, Roberts wimped out, totally wimped out. But there's a possibility he could still rule in our favor, whether it's in our case, whether it's in the Calvary case in Nevada, whether it's one of the other Calvary cases. We've got a bunch of Calvary cases. Anyways, we'll see.
A simpleton question. I'm a business. I'm thinking I want to get involved. I'm thinking I want to stay open, but it's the big FEAR that's sitting in front of me saying, oh, there's $1,000 a day fine that could be possible, or I'm going to have to hire an attorney to go represent me. I mean, what does that really look like if I want to, as a business, just be bold and go, I'm going to go ahead and open and take my shot? Can you walk just the simple parts of that? What can I expect?
Yeah, well, the first thing you have to take a look at is, do you have a state license? Do you have, if it's a restaurant, it's a state health license. If it's alcohol license, if you're a barber, it's a one of those licenses. So anywhere where the state controls the license, they're going to come after you, and you're the easiest low-hanging fruit. So you are the ones that I hate to say it. I'd probably suggest you not go ahead and open unless, barbers unite, hairstylists unite, and everybody opens up, and everybody has the guts, and everybody does it. Gyms.
Yeah.
I kind of guessed. Yeah, you know what? I mean, for gyms, it's the problem with you just have to have a lot of people, and it has to be more than just gyms because how many gyms are there in the county? There's enough for county council's office to handle all of you. But like with churches, there's hundreds of churches in every county, and the county council can't fight off everybody, and that's kind of where businesses, at some point in time, I don't know, where it's as though we're going to have to just say, if this thing continues and the governor keeps his noose around our neck, everyone is just going to have to open up and say, forget it, we're not doing this anymore, just like the churches did. So those are things you have to worry about. But, if you're kind of on your own and you're independent and you're going to open up your gym, you're going to have the county council coming after you. There's fines of up to $1,000 a day. You can be arrested. But they're not going to arrest you because the police don't want to do anything about it, most likely. So most likely what will happen is they'll file a lawsuit against you for an injunction and a restraining order, and then it'll be issued against you most of the time. And you'll get fined. You keep open, you keep doing it. I don't know, I'll tell you what happens on Friday for a pastor who's doing that.
Great. Question over here.
So I have a question with regard. I'm running for school board, and I'm concerned with the schools not opening. And so you said with the county supervisors that they should just not care what the government thinks and that go without money. But I'm thinking that that's the reason the schools aren't opening, even if they had guts to be like, we're opening anyway. The real threat, right, is that you're not going to get the funding from the governor, and you just can't pay teachers. And so are we just really stuck until your lawsuit hopefully wins?
Well, let me ask a question. Should the teachers even be paid right now? I don't think so. You don't need. You're doing it on video. You can teach. You can have one teacher instead of 3 teaching first grade. Why not? You're doing it on video. That's one issue. But the teachers' unions have so much power. And you know what? There's a lot of, my wife is a teacher. My daughter is a teacher. I don't have anything against individual teachers. What I have against is the union. The California Teachers Association is evil, flat out evil, and they control Sacramento. The stuff that they're pushing, the agenda they're pushing, is not stuff that the local school board wants to teach in most cases. The influence and power that they have on the governor, because they give the most amount of money, I believe, than any other union in the state to the political bodies. And so the governor is completely influenced by them, and the teachers are saying, we don't want to meet. For example, LA Unified, they're demanding, they're demanding in a coercive kind of manner, is not so expressly, but they want to defund the police. They want more money to the schools, even though in California we have more money per child going, being paid out than any other state than I think maybe New York or something, whatever it is, and yet we're down, we're 49th? I mean, we're way down there in terms of education. So, I mean, it's horribly run. And even are you running for which school district? Temecula Valley. Awesome. Good luck. And we need good people who are going to be willing to stand up. So the school districts need to, I would love to have a school district that would say, guess what, we're opening. We don't care what the governor says, and we're gonna go for it. Let's see who really cares about the education of the kids.
You had a comment?
Yeah. So I own a gym. I've stayed open. The county is applying a lot of pressure. I had a court date Monday, and somehow my lawyer got rid of that court date. I don't have to go to court. That's what they were going to do, is file a restraining order. We're going to try to turn it into a wellness center. So we were going to get chiropractors. We were going to get physical therapists. We were going to do all that because that's open. They said, oh, we'll think about it, but most likely not. If they don't, and then they say, they're going to ask us, well, what are you going to do? Are you going to shut? I'm not shutting. So the next, the next thing would be, will they chain the doors or will they just fine me? If they're going to just fine me, I'll take the fine and I'll take it to court. If I lose, I'll pay it.
It depends.
Depends on what?
Their choice. It depends on what action the county takes.
So my lawyer said that most likely he doesn't see us like arresting me, but he said a judge can hold you in contempt until I agree to shut the doors. Is that true?
Yes, and that's what will happen. So they issue a restraining if a restraining order is issued against you, then you're going to wind up having to make a decision. Okay, am I going to violate the restraining order and open and just keep operating? And then at that point in time, are you in Riverside County? Yeah. Okay, what gym are you at?
Fitness Mania.
Fitness Mania. Where are you at?
I'm off of Trotwine and Van Buren.
Troutwine and Van Buren. Okay, so anybody who lives up that way, go sign up. Yeah, support his business. And what I'd love to see is, if you do open and you do operate, when you are operating, if someone comes along and you find out that code enforcement is going to come put locks around your doors, let's have a human chain protest in front of your doors, and let's see, put up and say, our lives matter, and then let's see what happens. Let's see if they, come and arrest you. That's what's so ridiculous about this whole thing is, it just depends on the label you put on your protest. You put religious protest, it's not a protest. You go to church, you sing and you worship, well, that's different than people who run down the street and burn buildings and chanting, hate toward police officers. But somehow that's permissible?
How long could they hold me in jail?
According to the law, it actually says until the risk of danger is over.
So a couple months.
Something, I'm not giving the exact words. Those are not the exact words, but that's the effect of it. As long as necessary to prevent the danger.
Do you think they'll go that far?
No. Well, we're going to see, honestly, because, we're going to see. Right now what's happening is we have, the pastor in my client is the furthest along the process. And so the other counties are looking, everyone's looking to see what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. I'm hoping that what it turns out to be is they fine him. And now, as an officer of the court, I'm not here to promote civil disobedience. But I am here to tell you that if you do engage in civil disobedience, my specialty is to defend you. Yes.
Civil disobedience is right around the corner.
Well, civil disobedience is ongoing right now. And, I'm here to defend the Constitution. I believe that the Constitution is being violated. Our liberties are being violated. Your liberties are being violated. It comes down to a constitutional question in the end.
It says that they don't care about the Constitution. It means absolutely nothing anymore. And you can manipulate it any way you want. So they can just use a defense and be like, well, this is how it's going to be. And then that's how it stays.
You're right. I think you're right. And here in Riverside County, to the county council that is presently in place, I don't believe the Constitution means much to him. I think that for him, he's a government official. He's getting paid his probably $200,000+ a year. His paycheck's not going down at all. He's got his contract to have increased wages, I'm sure, year after year. He's got to be fired, guys. Doc, I hope you guys will, Lloyd, put together.
That's what it's all about. Yeah.
Put together a plan.
Yeah, that's the strike force we were talking about earlier. One more question. I know you have to get back to what you're doing.
More of a comment too, but because previously they have commingled the numbers now, they don't just have died with COVID. It used to be died with and of. Now they've commingled the numbers. So now I just looked in on the website for California. It's 10,995 people who've died from COVID or with COVID as well. And out of a 39 million population, that's 0.0002% of people who have passed from COVID. I mean, that can't be, at this point, anything that's necessary for an emergency to still be enacted. So I can't understand how it's not incumbent upon the Supreme Court of California to be releasing us from this obligation of this commitment anymore.
Yeah.
It's absolutely asinine. It's ridiculous.
Well, we're hoping our case will be accepted by the court. And hopefully they'll take it up, and we'll be able to present those arguments with all of our expert witnesses. We'll know in the next few weeks. Okay, thank you.
Bob
Hope
Tyler,
you all do
thank
well.
you. Can I have our guests come on up now and take a chair? This part of the program is experience. We've invited 4 individuals who have varied experiences in opening and staying opening and experience with the lovely county and now court. So the idea here is basically for you to learn from experience. I'm going to pass this mic. Still on? Am I still on? Okay. And what I want to do is I kind of want to do a Q&A, and so as you hear things and hear these stories, you're going to have questions of these individuals, these guys who have their businesses. Are you all open? I know yours is a little bit different, right, Sam? Okay. Are you all open? All of you are open, right? Okay.
Yes, sir.
So first, a couple, again, please for you to go to the booth out there. We have Open Cal Business cards to pass out. We're recruiting. We're trying to find as many people and businesses as we can to support because we're stronger in numbers. And so I want to introduce our panel here, as it were. This is Sam Alvey, who is MMA and UFC fighter and also an entrepreneur and has a story to tell. And it's Michael Enns from Fitness Mania in Riverside, Miguel Aguilar from Self-Made Fitness Training, and Brian DeMint from Perfect Tans. Here. What I'd like to start out with, so we can get kind of some basis for where all of your experiences are, is basically just that. Tell me a little bit about, we'll start with you, Brian. Tell me a little bit about where you were when this started, some of your briefly thought process of like, what the heck am I going to do now? And then where you are now, and maybe a little bit about what you've gone through. And then each one of you will just go down the road.
Sure. So yeah. We run a light therapy studio, and that involves tanning, that involves red light therapy, that involves a few other health services that involve light treatments. I mean, it's one of the most ridiculous things to actually shut that down in a health pandemic. But anyways, on March 19th, when I'll try to make this brief. It's a long story, but
all right.
On March 19th, when everybody was shut down. My partner and I went around to all the stores. We have 3 locations, and we shut everything down, closed everything down. We didn't know how long it was going to be shut down for. And we went with the orders because of the unknown, but my wife and I had just gotten a call a few days before. We're in the process of adopting. These are my 3 beautiful girls over here. We're in the process of adopting a 4th. And we got a call that there was a mom in Florida that was due. And so we weren't going to be able to fly out there and fly back. So we had to close the business. The next day after we closed the business, we borrowed a friend's RV, got in the RV, and drove to Florida. So we spent 33 days in Florida during the quarantine. God bless the mom. She ended up having the baby and keeping the baby. So we drove back home. And what an experience. My girls got to play on the beach during lockdown, so that wasn't too bad. But while we were in Florida, we got to strategize and think about what's going on and assess what's going on and allow the confusion and just kind of the whirlwind to settle down. And we went through every protocol in our head. Okay, we want to do whatever we can to open back up. So if that means wrapping everybody in bubble wrap so that they can come into our business and putting lines on the floor and doing X, Y, and Z, we'll do it. And then as time got closer, when we got back to California and a few days later, we were like, okay, we're going to open up. We consulted with some friends that were nurses and things, what should we do? And I told the nurses, I said, you know what? I have a conviction, I want to open my business for the sake of our business, but I also have a conviction that I don't want to perpetuate a lie. I don't want to perpetuate something. Then I'm not saying that COVID is a lie. I think you guys know where I'm at on that. I don't want to perpetuate an idea of fear and doubt in people. And so when we open our business, I told the nurses, I said, I want your guys' input, but let me tell you right now, I don't want to do anything that we shouldn't have always been doing. Because communicable disease is always a thing. We want to make sure that we're sanitizing and cleaning because the flu's real, and flu's 2 times more deadly for kids, as Bob was saying. And so we want to be aware of those things, but we want to make real impactful change. And so when we went to open our business, nothing looks different to the naked eye about our business. Now, we do have internal protocols of things. More handles get sanitized more frequently, and the turnover process is a little bit different with our staff. But what our customer comes in and experiences is there's no lines on the floor. There's nothing that's going to create fear in the customer when they come in, because we want them to understand that when you come in, we're going to contribute. And a lot of people say, oh, it's a tanning salon. Well, actually, we're a light therapy studio. That's a big difference, because one of the only things we sell, sunshine is one of the things that we do. And I don't know if you know this, but there's things that sanitize, and then there's things that boost your immune system. There's only one thing that does both, and that's sunshine, and we do that. And so to say that a business that sells sunshine, that sells health therapy services that will boost your immune system can't be open in a pandemic, we just thought that was ridiculous. And so we thought, if we're wrapping everybody in bubble wrap and we're making you walk on eggshells to come in and do these health services, we're perpetuating an unhealthy lifestyle, a doubt in somebody's head that we shouldn't have been open. No, when we reopened May 1st, we said, we're open, and we actually should have been open this entire time. And so the response from our customers, we had a customer just yesterday give us a survey that said, thank you, in the comment section, is a first-time customer. Thank you for not requiring people to wear masks. And people come in our businesses and wear masks.
Yeah.
And they do. There's people that choose to. God bless them. Absolutely. That's your free choice. That's what we want to perpetuate in our business. And guess what? We don't have lines on the floor. Guess what? Nobody encroaches on each other's space. People have a healthy respect for one another's space. We allow people to act like adults, and people act like adults.
Perfect. Thank you. Miguel?
All right, so kind of similar story in a sense that March 15th is when we got ordered to shut down. Not knowing all the details and all the information, obviously I keep track of what was going on since November. January hit, obviously there was not a huge alert of what was about to happen. So then come March, we get the orders to shut down. We took the information down. We shut down just for the month of March. And then once we got enough information, just like Brian was saying, we didn't really change much. We're an independent contracting personal training studio. So I have 35 to 60 independent contractors that are personal trainers that run their business within our business. That's our model. We're not an open gym. We are open to the public. But at the same token, we take hygiene very serious. Like, we wipe down before and after. We're very clean facilities. So like Brian said, we really didn't change much. We shut down for about 3 weeks, and then after that, we got enough information, enough data to really make an educated decision on how to really operate our business. And just like Brian's business, we are in the business of health. It's health and fitness. And as we know, if you're healthy, given now, we have definitely enough information that, the majority of these deaths, the underlying issue was obesity. And if we're not healthy, we're not going to be able to fight back anything, whether it be COVID, whether it be influenza, any of it, right? Because we're unhealthy. So we decided to open up April 1st, and we've stayed open since then. Again, we just took on extra protocol. We've done an intense amount of cleaning, but we've done this in the prior. We've always kept our locations really top notch, because that's what we want to always be. So we didn't change much on that aspect. But since then, we've stayed open. We're going to continue to stay open. We are now obviously having issues with the county. Not so much our sheriff, not so much our city. Actually, not even our sheriffs at all, period. And our city council here is pretty phenomenal. But that's where we're at right now.
And so this new thing about the county, what's happened since we saw you on our watch just a couple weeks back?
So since then, I have 30 locations in 8 different states. California getting hit the hardest. Arizona and California. But here in California, out of my 17 locations that are open, we're only getting attacked on one of them right now, and that's more of our retail section location. And a lot of it, I think, had to do because they were on the news. You know, so since they were on the news and we kind of disobeyed the orders, you would say, she's getting attacked right now. But we're going to be fighting them back as well. And again, putting the logic behind of what's going on. You see a lot of studios now putting their gym equipment outside. A lot of our locations have more of a garage feel, so we have these big roll-up doors. So that location has 6 roll-up doors. It's equivalent to being underneath the tent. So they're trying to fight us on that as well. But it's the county. It's nothing else. The city and the sheriff is really not doing anything to prevent us from staying open. We are following, certain protocols to be able to kind of appease them. But again, our locations, we are giving you the power of choice.
Michael?
Same thing.
Just pass the mic.
Same thing. County coming after me.
Yeah.
City's been great. I mean, we had a little hiccup with them in the beginning, but they got on board. I actually built the building from the ground up, so I've been in construction the last 2 years, I think. And I donated a lot of money to the city and the school districts and everything. And I said, hey, you guys, I'm going to be here a long time. Somebody needs to step up. And they did.
Yeah.
So now that they're not, now the county's like, you're not doing what you're supposed to do. We'll do it for you. So now I was supposed to be in court Monday morning.
Right.
Somehow my lawyer wiggled out of it, and we're now trying to change it into a wellness center. And we don't know if it's going to work or it's not going to work, but I have no intention of closing. I mean, no matter what. I mean, I just can't.
So where were you in the process of your business? Because you said you started, build it from the ground up. When this started, where were you in that process? Were you?
I was in another location.
Yeah.
In a smaller location.
Sure.
And same thing, when it first happened, I shut down because, again, we didn't know anything about the virus and how
Everyone
real it
was
was.
just
And
trying to do their best.
Yep. So we shut down, and then 3 months go by, and, nothing changed, right? And then they opened everything back up, and then they just said, no, we're going to shut it again for no apparent reason.
Right.
Other than they wanted to. And that's kind of what they're doing, is they're throwing power around and no one's really standing up. So, I mean, we have to.
Talk a little bit about the support you're getting, because I know as I opened up with Bob about this big FEAR that, there's all this stuff. I have to know a lot of things, and I'm really at risk in a lot of areas. Just talk a little bit about the support you've received on the other side. You made this decision. I'm opening. That's it. I'm opening. So what came back to you?
Insane support. Like, I couldn't even believe it. My Brian will attest to this. My phone, I couldn't even hang the phone up.
Yeah.
Like, I'd go to hang the phone up and I'd just click over.
Yeah.
And it'd be someone in like Texas calling me like,
yeah,
proud of you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Auburn. Thank you.
Nice.
So it's been great. And that's the thing, is like the silent majority, it's real.
Yeah.
But we're still silent.
Right. And I was just going to make that point. That's the reason we're here. This is the activation of that, the organization of the voices that would pick up the phone and call Michael and go, hey, way to go, buddy, and then hang up the phone and go do something else. This is taking that next step of taking some action.
So yeah, now we're Monday morning. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I think if they don't and they say, yeah, we're not going to go with the wellness center thing, you're going to have to close. Then we are not going to close, and they're going to ask us, what are you going to do? And then we'll probably have a court date.
Right.
Then the restraining order will come next, and then maybe I'll be in jail for a little bit.
Gotcha. Pray that doesn't happen.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Thank you, Michael.
Yeah.
Sam?
So I'm a little bit different than everyone else because I don't own a business, but I am an athlete. I fight for the UFC. I've been around the world. The whole world kind of closed down late March, early April. I was the first fight back with the UFC. I was the first fight on the card. I like to say I personally opened the world's economy on May 9th. But the UFC changed everything they do. So Florida was the one place in the States that they could set up. Back up a little bit. I was originally supposed to fight in Columbus, Ohio, March 27th. And it was like a week before that, Columbus shut down. So okay, so they were going to move it to Vegas, and that was a week later, and then Vegas shut down. So, well, maybe I won't fight. And then I was supposed to fight here in California at the Tachi Palace Casino, and then about a week before that closed down. That was April 19th or 18th, and they said, "Don't worry, we'll keep you on the short list." And they went and Florida opened up Jacksonville. So they said, okay, it's going to be Jacksonville. We're going to change the protocol a little bit. Most fights, I'll get there. If I fight on Saturday, I try and get there this Saturday before the fight. They changed it to keep more cards coming in, but us having less contact everywhere else. So I got there on the Wednesday. And as soon as I got there, they had doctors on staff, and they were putting the N95 masks, and I got 2 or 3 different of the tests, and they checked me for the antibodies, which I had. Apparently, I had the antibodies. They tested there. So I was sick, never realized it. But they changed everything. And actually, one of the athletes on the card ended up coming positive with the corona, and nobody else on the card got it. The UFC kept us away from everyone else. They changed our locker rooms. Instead of sharing one, they put us where we belong, or in our own little spot. And it was kind of fun to see how, the world was shutting down, everything was terrible, and the private company, the UFC, they figured out how to run their business so nobody got sick, nobody got affected. Backstage, at the fights, backstage was, we got to do whatever we wanted, but then as soon as we were on camera, all my coaches had to put face masks on and stuff, which is, the cameras are on you, so I guess I understand. But they changed what they had to do to make sure people stayed safe, just like I'm sure every business is going to do. They're going to adjust what it takes to keep people. No business wants their customers, their employees to get sick. And the UFC was very much like that. The UFC actually went so far as they bought an island, so now they're fighting. Yeah, Dubai. I'll be there in October. Which nobody knows yet, so don't tell anyone yet. Yeah, over in Dubai, they bought an island, so now that their athletes from around the world can fly there. So it's just another example that as soon as the government gets out of your way, you guys, the businesses will do everything in their power to make sure that their employees, their customers, their mode of profit does not get sick or injured. And the UFC is just leading the way with that. They were the first sporting event. They were one of the first anything to start back up, and they kind of set the pace. They had no audience, so now I don't know if football's going to happen, but baseball's no audience, basketball's no audience. All these sports are coming back kind of based on what the UFC did first. So that's kind of the fun thing of what I've done. How I'm a little different is I was on the private contracting side of everything.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. So I have this curiosity about, for all of you, the question is, all right, so I'm bold enough to go out and open my business, and you're all kind of in somewhat the same space, generally, and I have all this risk, and there's the right thing to do, and then there's this risk part of it. How's your business doing? Are you up? Let's talk about, okay, I'm going to stay open. Everyone else is closed. No one's making any money. These are the things we're hearing. No one's making any money. Unemployment's way high. There's no dollars out there, especially for what you all do, which is discretionary funds, right? It's not food, and it's not a roof over my head. So how's your business doing right now?
Cool. So let me answer that question in a second, but I just wanted to give a recap because I know we have an online audience, just to kind of give a resume a little bit more of the panel here. So just going back to Sam, in UFC fighter, this guy's not just a professional athlete. He has beat world champions. He's been at the top of the sport and is at the top of the sport. World-class athlete. If you go and buy the UFC video game, Sam Alvey's in the video game. That's like, I remember talking to him when he got the news that he's going to be in the video game. He said, I did it. I'm in a video game now. And so I was only in a video game when you can make your own character. Like that. That's all I've ever been. Mike, I met him when he opened his first gym 4 years ago now, 2016. He wasn't given a bunch of money. He went out, did the the American dream, got a loan, started his gym. I'll just throw out a number. It was about a $200,000 gym. That was a lot of money. He's built that $200,000 gym into the new facility, gorgeous gym. It's a $12 million facility. That's the American dream. That's the transition of going out, starting something, and building it. And I imagine there's going to be lots more of those gyms someday. It doesn't matter if they put them in jail. It doesn't matter if they fine them. That's the kind of guy. So we're dealing with some heavy hitters here. And then Miguel has 30 locations. Started, so how?
30. We just sold 2 last week.
Yeah. So I mean, my partner Andy and I were sitting in a meeting with Miguel a couple weeks ago, and we're like, how many locations you're at? He goes, yeah, 32. And he pulls out his phone, he gets a ding, he goes, 34 now. We just got 2 more. I mean, so, and he's going 8 in the pipeline. I mean, we're dealing with some really heavy hitters here and movers and shakers. So we're not talking about businesses that were struggling before. We're not talking about people that were just eking by. So to set that up for your question.
Gotcha.
You know, if somebody's down or if we're hurting, if we're up or whatever, we're all probably in different boats right now. But it's significant. We're not, we're talking about real businesses. My business, I'm only up here because I know these 3. But my business, we've been in the Inland Empire in Riverside County for 12 years. I mean, we've grown every single year. We've never seen a year where we were down the year before. And if we were only up 5% from one year to the next, I would be depressed. I would be bummed out because what are we doing wrong in our business that we're not growing by 10, 20, 30%? Those are the conversations that my business partner and I have. This year, obviously we were closed down for 6 weeks, so we were at 0. We were down 100% at that point. Every month we've been back open. Our first month we opened, we were down about 50%. The next month we opened, we were down about 30%. Last month, we were down about 20%. So we're trending closer because we've been uninhibited. I don't have people knocking on my door. Thank God our stores are small. Oh, by the way, Mike was actually on Tucker Carlson tonight. So in terms of getting attention and people making a loud noise on this, unfortunately, the ones that step forward, the ones that go out there, there's a reason why Mike's getting hit right now. It's because he was bold. The reason why Miguel has a huge voice on social media, that's why they're coming after his gym, because he's bold, he's out there. His person was on the news as well. And so, I mean, unfortunately, we are down, but the positive thing is that we're seeing the benefit of being uninhibited by the government. My business, aside from shutting everything down, they're not specifically targeting my business. My business is getting to a healthier and healthier position. So if left unchecked, if left to the free market, we will get to the point where we are in growth mode again, even with all the other macro circumstances. So that's just a perfect test case for what happens when you just kind of let businesses get back to it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Miguel, how's your business doing?
We're actually up.
Yeah.
We're up by a lot.
Yeah.
And the reason for it is a lot of education goes out. Like you said, I do have a pretty good following through social media, and I do a lot of video marketing with the education of what we do and how we're safe and how we're actually implementing certain protocols to keep people healthy. But we also, not just the COVID aspect, but just all around health. You guys need to be aware of that. You know, if we have 800,000, deaths due to heart disease, what does that tell you? But no one's giving you commercials to shut down McDonald's, right? And no one's giving you, telling you to wear a mask so you don't eat yourself to death, right? So that's what we've done. So we've increased in business, but at the same token, we take it day by day. We're not promised tomorrow. And the best approach is, again, being bold and staying together in this together. Because if not, one singular person can't do it all for everybody. Right. So for us, we've been blessed to be above, but who's to say what happens next month and the month after? So for us, we're taking every precaution to be able to be open, but also we're getting very creative. If we're going to stay open, you have to get creative. Don't look at the glass half empty. It is half full. You might have to reinvent your business or add certain protocols or add certain businesses to be considered what is essential, which I think every business is essential, period. If it's putting food on the table, putting a roof over your head, it's essential. But for us, we were able to also get creative. We do have actually full wellness centers in our locations now that we've actually pulled permits with, got in contact with the city to be able to do such. And then obviously we've partner with Brian. Now we're going to be doing the lighting system inside every one of our facilities, which then will make us essential. And then I also acquired another company through this, which is Urban Water, which now will have alkaline water filtration systems in our facilities, which is known to boost your immune system. So again, getting creative. Instead of just saying, okay, I'm going to shut down and wait to see what happens, you got to go out and get it. You have to be able to really take the risk. And, as cliche as it sounds, no risk, no reward, right? So we've been good.
Yeah. People in business, sometimes they're in business and they're not realizing that they're taking that risk every day. And here we have just a new set of circumstances, in a sense, that it's a huge set of circumstances, but nonetheless, it is just a new playing field. And I want to hear you talk just a little bit about, and all of you at some point talk about what you know now that you didn't know 4 months ago. I mean, how much studying do you have to do to stay in business?
It's actually a blessing.
Yeah.
Because I've educated myself not only on our constitutional rights of what we're actually able to do, what we are entitled, God-given right to do. That has helped a lot. And then also learning the legalities of what you can and cannot do, and how important verbiage is when you receive fines, citations, orders to close. Even then, considered a mandate. If you look at a mandate, it sounds mandatory, so you feel, oh, I got to do it, but look it up. Really get educated on what exactly you can and cannot do for your business, and at that point, that will allow you to evolve as a business. Yeah. And if anything, it's giving me Education 101. Yeah.
Miguel, how's your business at this point? Michael, sorry. How's your business doing? Where are you with your business? You're open still. You're remaining open. So amidst all of the turmoil around you, how's the actual business doing?
It's insane. I mean, Brian, I'll tell you, we're signing up a couple hundred people a day.
Yeah.
We are doing the sanitization. We have sanitized bottles on top of we have a laundry mat in there now, pretty much. We bought 4 wash and dryers, and what we do is we just do laundry all day.
Sure.
Each member grabs a towel and sanitizes everything before and after. We also built a really cool AC system in there. There's a huge return vent in it. It's like the size of that back garage, and it sucks all the air out of the building every 20 minutes and then reintroduces new air.
Nice.
So we're trying, like Miguel said, get creative. That's what we're doing. He busted the well center out, and that's what I'm trying to do now. I'm trying to do anything to keep the doors open. It's just, that's what every business has to do. There has to be some type of loophole, and no quit. That's what I did. I went and got a lawyer, and I'm just not, no matter what happens, I'm not quitting. I'm just going to keep dodging. That's what we have to do.
So every day you wake up both doing business and doing this.
There's usually 2 lawyers involved every day, and then I got the county and the city coming after me. Not the city, but the county's coming every day.
Yeah.
They're bringing the health department. They're dropping fines off. They're bringing RPD up there to look cool and be tough and try to scare you, but you just shake their hand and realize that they have a family feud too. They're doing their job, and that's the problem with the scare tactic is all these government employees. They're scared to death. They disobey the governor. They might not have a job tomorrow.
Right. Important to note, because many times the messenger is not the problem.
Yep.
Right. Good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sam, I'm not sure if the question is appropriate for you in your situation, but the things maybe you've had to learn during this time in your specific space of independent contractor, essentially.
Yeah. One of the things that you hear the term the silent majority, and on social media, I'm got that stupid little blue check mark that means everyone can yell at me and can get away with it. And it really is the case. I've posted, just honestly, I started posting just the facts, just the actual numbers, because if you hear just the numbers, it's not that intimidating. But man, I get yelled at by everyone, and they've yelled me down once or twice, and I always get nervous about what could happen if the wrong person yells at me or that. But then I'll look at how many likes it has, not comments. The comments I'll have 150, and they're all telling me I'm terrible and I'm killing, babies and all that. But then you'll look at the likes, and there'll be 2,000 likes. They didn't say anything. And I would love when I read the one comment of somebody say, yeah, you know what, you're right, Sam, or you know that's a good point. That puffs me up so much, and I'll post something else, even just one comment out of 150.
Yeah.
And you just don't get them that often. People are scared to say that they agree with you. They don't even have to say you're doing a great job just to not knock you. People get nervous about that because they don't know what they're going to get screamed down for on social media or in real life. Most people are chicken in real life. They won't say anything face to face. But as far as social media or interviews I've done, I did an interview with Michael Bisping a while back, and this is right at the beginning. It would have been middle of April, and I just said, guys, the numbers are not that bad. And if you look at heart disease, if you look at H1N1 from years back, if you look at any of these other diseases, this is the U.S. typically loses about 7,500 people a day or a week. I think it's a day, and we're like not on pace for that. And I woke up to my Twitter box, to my inbox on Instagram, just telling me I'm the biggest, waste of space, and I'm killing people. And it's like, ooh, maybe I should, bite my tongue a little bit, because it's really not that important to me that I go on the Michael Bisping whatever and say go outside. It's not that important. My family, we stay as maskless as we can most of the time, where we're making the adjustments when we have to. But the side that disagrees with me, they're mean. And if you guys are on social media and you agree with someone, put a little thumbs up emoji next to it instead of just a like, because it really will boost our morale, boost our just knowledge that we're not getting. That there are people out there that agree with us.
Yeah. So again, back to we have businesses watching online and businesses here, people who own businesses, and they're trying to figure out how to navigate in questions. And the question I would have is your customer base at this time. How is it different? How much did you lose? I'm thinking about the people who come and I call them the mask people. They come and they try to shame you into closing your business or doing something differently because you're not enforcing mask or social distancing or those kinds of things. Have you had that interaction? Has it initially affected your business? I know everyone seems to be either on their way up or up.
We probably have maybe 6 people a day wear a mask.
Okay.
And the other 1,000 don't.
Yeah.
And the business is skyrocketing.
Right.
So nobody wants to wear a mask anymore.
Any pressure, we've talked about the government pressuring you in particular. They're trying to make an example of you.
Yeah.
But how about just individuals who come out of the woodwork?
No, we'll have people, if they want to wear a mask, they come in, they'll say, do you require masks? And I'll say, no. And they'll go, okay, is it okay if I wear one? I'm like, yeah, sure, no problem.
Yeah, right. It's choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Miguel?
Same. Since day one, I've given everybody the power of choice. It's not I'm not a medical professional. So why should I encourage you to wear a mask? And obviously with statistics and everything that's out there, the data, we already know the truth. And then, combating anybody that has anything negative to say of what we're doing, the response is always done with love and with the proper facts. And at that point, they'd be quiet. They don't have nothing to really fight on. Every response that I've gotten negative has always been from an emotional being versus actual data.
Right.
So at that point, that's where you have to be educated. You have to know the numbers. You have to know exactly what it is. And then at that point, even for us, like we own gyms or affiliations with health and fitness. Know your numbers. Luckily we've had some statistics. There's a test done where we're at 0.000002 cause of the spread of the virus. There's been a minuscule amount of numbers that have come in from any gym whatsoever. Because if you think about it, barbers, salons, nails, gyms, we're over sanitized.
Yeah.
We are. And guess who's coming to those type of places? Healthy people. If you're sick, you're not going to go work out. You can't, right? You typically stay home. Right. And again, I think what's going on with our government, and they don't trust on our decisions. We're not to be controlled by them. We have the God-given right of our freedoms to be able to do exactly what we're doing. And again, we need to stand together when it comes to that. So if you do see us standing up, join us, because in numbers, we will do better.
Right.
So for us, I mean, just as a tidbit of advice, maybe for any businesses that are trying to think of their strategy, I'm not going to give any tips on what your protocol should be as far as sanitation and all that stuff. I would say be smart about it. But as far as the customer service aspect, your business is about your customers, right? We've tried, by the grace of God, we have not had a lot of cancellations through all of this. We've had some, but we've actually had less cancellations in a normal year. But we do have a lot of membership holds. Because the core of our business is residual monthly memberships. And so people can cancel it at any time, but what we've seen is a really big increase in people saying, put me on hold for another month. And then they call back a month later. Okay, well, you know what? I'm not ready yet. Put me on hold for another month. So they're willing to stick with our business. They're telling our business, hey, it's this fear or this uncertainty or whatever is going on here. As soon as this is gone, I'm coming back. And so those customers are waiting. They're behind the fence. They're just waiting for the fence to be unlocked. And so hold on for those customers. Understand their position. I mean, some might just be completely afraid for no real reason for their situation. But then there's a lot of people that should, like these guys are saying, stay home, take care of yourself. That's your priority, is to take care of yourself. Accommodate those people. Accommodate those ones so that when things do come back to normal, and like a real normal, not the new normal, none of us want the new normal, we want the actual normal. When that normal comes, be a part of making it normal. Hey, your membership's back up. We even did on our website an economic impact form, because while the response to the virus is a bit ridiculous, the economic fallout is real, and that's concrete. People have lost jobs, whatever. We put an economic impact form on there. Customers could choose a 25, 50, 75%, or 100% price reduction and just keep coming in. You go on our website, tell us you want to come in and use services for free. That's fine. We want to be a part. We're going to put our money where our mouth is. We're going to bring the real normal, the actual normal, by doing that. And that's what we've been aiming to do. And I would suggest every business, do whatever you can. Get somebody in your business one time. Do what you can to get them in one time, and see how easy it is to get them in a second time. That would be my suggestion.
Yeah. Wonderful. But not one of you have said, yeah, I've got a bunch of people who are mad at me and they are never coming back and they just hate me because I'm open. Not happening. Do we have any questions from people here? We've just got a few more minutes before we're done for the day. Get your question.
Well, it's more, I don't know if this is a question for you, but I think it would be helpful if we all came together. I mean, this is a town hall meeting after all. Like, is there a way to put it on these sites that, okay, he's having problems with the county today, they're coming, that we could just show up in mass? To show, look, there's a lot of us. He's not alone. His voice is not alone. So is there a way to even list businesses that are open and then have a call to action? And a lot of people are home now. We see how many people came out for Black Lives Matter on the street. There's a lot of us home, too, that we might have time to just drive down to Riverside and do that.
That's exactly what Open Cal Biz is all about, is that it is just the pass-through of information. So when one of us is in trouble, that's exactly what we'll do, is we send out an email saying, hey, this is happening at this time. If that's needed for Michael, if he needs a crowd, then he just needs to go, hey, I need some help here. And it goes out to everyone who's signed up, and we will develop that on the website as well.
I do have a suggestion when it comes to that, is we all know, well, we should know the power of social media. Really get engaged with us through social media. Follow us. Turn on your notifications so when we do post something, you get notified. That's where I've gotten a lot of traction, is through social media. A lot of the awareness has been through social media. I had one post when the governor decided to close us down the second time. I went within 20 minutes, edited the video, announced that we're not closing, we're staying open. Within 14 hours, it had 64,000 hits. And then it was shared over 4,000 times. So the people are out there, and we banded together. That's how I came in contact with him. That's how we decided. And we actually bounced back ideas. You would think that we would be competition, but there's no competition. This is where we do come together. So through social media, I mean, you can hit the thousands, and it goes, international, believe it or not. And if we do come in a large crowd, it does grab more attention. Then it becomes even larger and larger. This movement, again, can be to the amounts where it will grab people's attentions nationally, for sure.
It's about influence.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what Lloyd was talking about when we started this morning about everyone in this room knows someone, and employing them and imploring them to get involved in all of this is the way that we grow this exponentially so that we can bring crowds to places where we need to be and to react when we should. Brian?
And so, so just literally, we just got to go to that website. Like if you're in this room and you haven't done it yet, go to this website, opencalbiznow.com. There's a join button. Opt in, send it to 20 friends, text it to them. If you know a business owner, great. If somebody has a job, that's enough. If somebody just wants to volunteer and that's willing to be a human shield in front of Mike's business, that's who we want. We want a coalition of 2,000 businesses over the next, 30 days? 60 days. 60 days, coalition of 2,000 businesses. So when they attack Mike, they're not just attacking Mike. They're attacking all of us. They're attacking 2,000 businesses. And then guess what? One of those businesses is Miguel that has 50,000 followers that it grows exponentially really, really quick. And so that's how you get a human shield. That's how you get physical distance between the enforcement and what actually happens on the ground. So get on there, get involved. The other side, the side that's made a lot of these things happen, or maybe a lot of the things that are happening in places that we don't agree with, the reason why they're so successful is because they are organized. This is us getting organized. So let's do that. That's our goal. That's our job. That's why we're here.
Yep, get organized. Exactly. It's amazing. Yeah. It's amazing how, you hear these stories, and we've got 4 of them here, and they're 4 individuals, and now they all know each other, and now there's 4 all together. But how, I think sometimes when you're not in it, you look at it and you go, that just would take an army to get something done. And the truth is some of these stories are as simple as, no, I stood up. I stood up, and then I took the next step, and I took the next step, and I took the next step. And that's why we're here today. As we wrap up, I just want to give everyone an opportunity on the panel to just one more time for anyone watching online on our watch, on the YouTube channel or here, just your best encouragement that you can give them right now for how and what to do with their business. Sam?
As far as your business, listen to your customer. The customer is what matters the most at the end of the day. And then if you want to help the business outside of supporting outside of using the business, talk to them. Look at the websites. Look at everything they're involved with. California's in a bad spot right now. There's a lot of people trying to hold us down, and we shouldn't be in a bad spot. There's a lot more of us than there are them. And just come together, trust each other a little bit, and do a little more than like the post. Put a thumbs up. Let people know you're there.
Michael?
I think we just all have to open together. And I think I heard you talk about salons earlier. I've heard there's a movement. They're opening up on the 19th, Monday.
Right.
All of them are opening up. I think if we all open up and fight back, what are they really going to do? I mean,
support them.
We outweigh them. Support
Absolutely.
them. Stand up,
there's
come
another
visit their
movement for
business.
churches.
Yes.
Same thing. Yes.
Same thing.
Support them.
Stay open. Continue to stay open. Fight the fight. The way I look at it is, you're better off, going down fighting than not fighting at all. You got to look at your business. Is it going to be around if you shut down for another 3 months? If not, then what? You're going to lose it anyways. Might as well go down fighting.
We're talking about a bigger fight here, too. This isn't just about the COVID-19 pandemic, emergency shutdown thing. This is material change for future. I mean, we got to operate not this year and next year, but for decades. This is a bigger fight than just right now, right?
That is correct. It literally, this is, I have 2 young daughters, 12 and 13. They're watching my every move right now. They're going to be able to do this. If this ever happens again, they're going to know exactly what to do, if not better.
Right.
So we're doing this not only for ourselves, but for our future. 100% for our future. And if we don't do something now, then, at that point, you have nobody else to blame besides ourselves.
Wonderful. Ryan?
Exactly that. What's at stake is the American dream. That's what it is. All of human history, the American dream, or the idea of it, what's the American dream? The American dream is literally a land of equal opportunity. There's people out there trying to promise us equal outcomes. That's what socialism is. Guess what? Socialism actually delivers on that promise. Everybody gets the same thing. Everybody gets dirt. Everybody gets poverty. If you want prosperity, if you want people that can lift themselves up and then can lift other people up after they've pulled themselves up, you need a land of equal opportunity. So all of human history waited for 1776 so that the American dream could be born. They didn't know what it was called before that, but it became the American dream. And then 1787, when the Constitution formalized it, gave us a document that said, here's how we protect the American dream. The Constitution has all sorts of promises, but it never promises to give us anything. The Constitution doesn't give us anything. It tells us how the government will not mess with us. That's the American dream. It says, we are going to provide you a land of opportunity because we will not be the problem. If you want success, you go get it. The reason you fail isn't going to be because of us, because there will be people that will succeed and there will be people that fail. But we're going to provide a place where you can do that. And so human history waited for the American dream to be born. And just like anything, when you fight for the American dream, when you fought to get it, you appreciate it. But just like somebody that's born into wealth a few generations in, they might take it for granted. And so here we are. We've been born a few generations in. Our parents and our parents' parents were born into the American dream, and we're at a stage now where people have taken it completely for granted. They don't understand what that means to have the American dream. So we are at a point in history, again, where we can either defend it, if it's a torch, if it's this liberty, this American dream, there's people that are trying to snuff that out right now. There's people that are trying to extinguish that. We can either allow it to be extinguished, or we can pass the torch on to the next generation so that Miguel's girls and that Mike's kids and Sam's kids and my kids, and guess what? Not just our kids, but the little boy in Africa that's just being born that's going to legally immigrate over here and start a business and employ people, or the little girl in Mexico that's going to come and go to college here and work for a company and help that company grow. That's the American dream. That's what brings people here. That's what gets us out of bed in the morning. So are we going to be the generation that gets looked back on as the generation that dropped the ball? I don't want to be a part of that. And I think because you guys are here, you don't want to be a part of that. But it doesn't matter how bad we want it unless we're willing to do something about it. And we only can do something about it if we get strength in numbers, if we go on and join causes and get out there and make it happen. Because it will get extinguished on our watch if we're not careful.
Yeah, thank you. Wow. Yeah. I was thinking about something that you just said. Our forefathers, as they say, their number one business was this, and then everything else was after. And we've kind of switched that around, and maybe it's time to change that around. Question? Yes, sharing the social media.
Yeah. So Instagram's pt.lighttherapy, or pt.light.therapy, excuse me. We just changed it. So pt.lighttherapy. pt.light.therapy, sorry. Miguel's gonna give me a hard time after this. He's like, bro, you gotta have that.
You gotta have it down, bro. It's Self-Made Family INC. Self-Made Family INC.
Fitnessmania_gym.
Fitnessmania_gym.
And then I'm at Smilin' Sam.
That's easy. That's easy. I think we're out of time. Again, you gentlemen sitting here 4 months ago, this wasn't even on your... I'm going to speak online on behalf of things that need to happen in our country and our state and our county. Thank you so much for taking a leadership position. I know you didn't sign up for it, but here you are, and you're filling those shoes wonderfully. So thank you so much. How about a hand for our panel? Thank you. And thank you all for coming out. Again, the reminders are 2,000 businesses within 60 days. We're also looking for a strike force to go to the County of Supervisor Board meetings, which there are 2 every month, and we want to help you coordinate with that. We're going to give you coaching tips on how to do that and help us with a unified message, in particular about this county attorney that really needs to find something else to do. And so please, we have a booth as you go out. Sign up for that. We need you, and we need lots. So pass it around, and thank you again for coming.